Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of Blasphemers Bible. This is one I've been looking forward to for a while. We just have one job, and I'm really ready to get into it. I spend way too much of my time arguing with idiots on social media, and one that I got a couple of days ago was some Bible literalist demanding that I show them that Moses did not write the Pentateuch, that I had to provide proof of this. How do you know? And I said, well, I host a weekly Bible study with actual scholars of scriptural history and all that. So you
Scholars
could
in
join the
quotation marks.
panel and find out from them directly. So I would like my scholars to introduce themselves, if you would, please. All of you.
Well, before we, as second in command, before we get into some more specialized introductions, I do want to say that I'm very happy to have Chrissy here. Chrissy is the absolute best Job scholar I know. This has been like her I don't know if you want to call it pet project or what you want to call it, but you've been working on Job specifically for so goddamn long, and the entire time that I've known you too, the whole time, from the very moment I met you, you were interested in Job, and you've been doing a lot of work on it. So I could think of no better person to ask to be here than Chrissy.
If I could just tag something on the back of that, when I started this series, I contacted Lawrence before I said anything to anybody else because I said I wasn't going to be able to do this show. I wasn't going to do this show without Lawrence. So it's kind of a big deal to hear him say the same about you.
Thank you.
And
you're gonna embarrass me already.
Oh, that's fine. I'm perfectly fine embarrassing you. I don't give a shit. But we also, of course, have Kip here. Look at him sipping his what is probably black tea. I'm guessing with
No. This is a coffee cup. You can tell what I'm drinking because I use appropriate vessels for my beverages.
Oh yeah, like my coffee cup.
Looks like a coffee cup. I assume you're drinking
like
coffee.
to me.
That looks like a mead.
No, it looks like a coffee cup to me.
Wow.
Yeah,
so now we can introduce ourselves. I am going to you all know who the hell I am, but for what Aaron was saying earlier, I got degrees in religious studies, classics, minor in ancient Greek language, and currently looking for a grad school. I did not get into the one I was hoping to get into, but that's a story for a different time. But I'm gonna write some papers. Chrissy has offered her help with that, and I'm very much appreciative. And because I want to get a good CV together.
Well, I want to start off by saying not everybody here is a scholar. I'm certainly not. I'm just an interested person that's been following this and doing a lot of research. Unfortunately, there's people I know that teach the evolution side, which I would prefer to do, and they specialize in that, so they know a whole lot more than me. I'm the jack of all trades because I have to dabble in the comparison between, mythology and the science of evolution. So I'm divided. Lilith, you spent most of your life as one of the fundamentalists. Would you say?
Not full fundamentalist, but definitely evangelical and evangelical adjacent. I did go to Bible school for leadership training to be one of those good evangelical leaders. And so, well, I did do a certain amount of scholarship involved in that, and certainly on the side, it would not be anything that would be considered actual scholarship by, scholars such as we have here. I'm largely here as the traumatized ex-evangelical with autism who memorized way too damn much of the Bible, and unfortunately, because my brain is the way it is, cannot forget any of the disturbing things I learned. However, that does have a hidden advantage, particularly in this timeline that we are all suffering in, because one of the ways that evangelicalism protects itself is in making sure that people do not understand what the fuck it is talking about. And so sometimes I can act as translator in that capacity so they can't sneak shit around in their muddled language. So yeah, I'm a different sort of Swiss Army knife too, but
Okay. And then
Hey, did
Isaac.
you? No, sorry, Lilith. Did you go to Bible college in this country?
there is a program very close to where you live that no longer runs that I was a part of.
You can. Yeah, I'll need you to tell me. You don't have to, but offline, I'm very
Yeah,
interested to know where you
I'll
went to
tell you
school.
about it. It was
Oh, all
actually,
right.
I should give it credit where it's due. It did open up a certain amount of critical thinking, which I think ultimately did help me wend my way out, but it was very limited. They were still obsessed with the Jesus Conference and bitching at Robert Price for that in the 2000s. So,
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
And then Isaac, what was yeah, Isaac is one of two panelists, or at least I don't know. There's probably four
Mike
now.
can
But he speaks Hebrew, right? So this is helpful. And you did Bible studies as well. What is your capacity here, Isaac?
Isaac, I think you're frozen or muted. There you go. Okay, you're alive.
I think
Yeah.
Isaac is lagging out or something.
Okay.
Oh.
We'll move on to Tomer. Tomer, how are you? What
Yeah.
do you do?
Tomer is in Israel, and so he's required to study the Bible as part of his regular schooling.
Kinda.
But
I mean, it's part of the curriculum, but like we studied critically, as one should, I think. But I am actually doing a master's in applied mathematics. It's just that I started being interested in biblical studies actually since Blasphemers Bible, ever since I joined. So recently I had a bit of a burnout because I'm job hunting, but now I'm trying to get on Job as well. So
okay, and then Kip,
Hey.
Doctor Kip.
Yeah. I'm Kip Davis. I'm a biblical scholar and a specialist in early Judaism and the Dead Sea Scrolls. I have a PhD from the University of Manchester, and I wrote my dissertation on the reception. I guess we'll say the reception of the Book of Jeremiah in early Judaism, and I've written some books about the Bible.
Kip Davis has written no books.
But
I
five
don't
books,
think he
actually.
has.
Five.
he
Five
no,
is
he wrote
five is
redacted
more than
books.
none. That's true. This one is redacted, and
See,
two are
I'm
retracted.
I'm a Kip book mythicist, and I'm the leader of our movement. So I don't think his book exists. This is just a
You're the
fabrication.
wow.
You know, you think a
and-
lot of books don't exist, Chrissy.
And
Such
Chris,
as
Wow.
PHQ on Job, which unfortunately I don't have.
and Chrissy, welcome to the panel. You also have a pretty solid reputation on your scholarship. Fill us out.
Yeah, I have a master's degree in English. I'm actually an adjunct professor of English right now, and I am also I'm not even sure. I shouldn't call myself a hobbyist. But I call myself a hobbyist of biblical studies. But I publish a lot on the subject. So I have a
It's okay. We're all nerds here.
yeah, I have about 30 peer-reviewed papers on the subject, and I also have a book on the authenticity of the epistle to Philemon as well. So
Ooh, now that
I do
sounds
a lot.
interesting.
I have not published on Job yet. I have some things I want to do at some point, but I have been obsessed with this book for years. It's my favorite book of the Bible, bar none. And I actually started my journey in biblical studies by trying to teach myself Hebrew so that I could start translating it, which was an absolute choice.
Wow. Yeah, that's a choice.
Though I would say that the Hebrew of Job, at least the poetic stuff, is relatively hard, and I think it is intentional because it's supposed to be archaic, quote unquote. though.
Yeah.
Oh, fake
I think
archaic
it's.
is always fun.
I mean, I have
Yeah.
my own. I have my own thoughts. I don't think it's just trying to be archaic. I think it's being dense on purpose.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would say it.
Pretentious.
No, I wouldn't say pretentious. Because yeah,
No,
I've read
not
chapter.
pretentious.
No, I've read chapter 3, at least the Hebrew form, and they can say, okay, I can understand what you mean by dense, because there's a lot of concepts talked into this chapter. Just saying an example, but I can see like why we have such volumes of commentaries on Job. So
It
I guess
amuses me that
the
we
good
have
ones.
2/3 of our panel speak Hebrew, because every episode we have Tomer complaining about English.
It's true. It's true. We have to
Yeah.
console Tomer for his frustration with the English language. But alas, you know, English just kind of finds other languages in an alley, beats them up, and rifles through their pockets for random verbs and syntax. So, you know, it's.
And
Yeah.
I also should know, because I guess it's relevant to this book. I did write my capstone paper on Job 26:7. So once we get to Job 26, I'm gonna have a lot of things to
Wheelhouse.
say.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it, and I want to thank Kip, who isn't always here. I'm glad when he can make time. Thank you, Kip, and welcome
Listen.
Chrissy to being on here as well. Yeah,
Lawrence was on my channel yesterday, and he and as we were finishing up, he said to me that you guys were starting Job this morning. So I can't stick around for more than about another hour and a half, but I was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna be there.
Hell yeah.
Because this isn't maybe this isn't my favorite book, but Jesus Christ. This is one of the
It's-
books, right?
It's
One of
a
the books
big
of all
book.
time.
It has a lot of impact, both scholarly and unfortunately culturally, in various ways that are incredibly fucked up sometimes.
But I think, sorry,
no, go
no,
ahead.
it's okay. Please.
and I think one of the things, and this is probably where Chrissy and I actually haven't talked about Job, I don't think, ever, which is weird. But like one of the things as I read it, I just think it's a terribly misunderstood book.
Yes.
Mm.
I can recognize that's not the only time. I mean, my hatred of Amos 4 comes from the version of it that is literalist and not aware of the, you know, what they were talking about in terms of the socioeconomic and cultural things of the day. But that is, nonetheless, that misunderstood version is one that has an impact on our culture and society. And we don't have to focus on it, but I will be bringing it up periodically.
Now, I have to focus almost my whole career on the first few chapters of Genesis, but outside of that, I would say that Job is my favorite book, because there's some stupid shit in here.
Oh my god. I totally had a Christian on the internet trying to be like, can you bind the influences of the Pleiades? I'm like, don't quote Job. That's astrology, you dumbass. It's an open star cluster. It doesn't have influences on us.
Let's try to be respectful of all our people's time. I'm going to jump in and read this out. So
No,
we
no,
can
no, no,
discuss
no,
it.
you're not. No, you're not.
Not?
No, because the reason that I was so adamant about getting Chrissy here was to introduce us to Job, because there's a lot to cover. So
Okay.
I would absolutely love for Chrissy to hop into whatever we need
Take it
to hop
away.
into.
Okay, so I'm going to preface this by saying the book of Job is probably one of the most complicated books of the Hebrew Bible, linguistically and also in terms of its textual history, because it is also one of those texts that is very unorthodox when you compare it to other books. So, for example, it's not heavily invested in knowledge of the law. Like the law code does not come up very much, like at all, in the book of Job. There are references to it, which we'll probably end up getting to, but it's deliberately obscure, I would argue, on that subject. What also makes it really obscure is just about everything to do with its setting. So, for example, it's going to begin, there was a man in the land of Uz. We have no idea where that place is. I'm sorry, Tomer.
Where that place
I'm
oozed.
going to do that.
I know you're going to do that, and I thank you for that. But Uz is, not a real place. We have a few references to it in a few other texts, but it's basically land far away. It's just a generic, not real location, it seems to be. We've never been able to identify it. We probably never will be able to identify it. That makes it really difficult. What makes it even more difficult on top of that is that we have no idea who Job is as a character in relation to other characters chronologically, but there are later commentators on this would end up having theories, and also like later translators of the book of Job would. And so just from its foundations, the start of the text is already really problematic and obscure. We don't have much internally to say a whole lot about where it's trying to set itself, when it's being set, or anything similar. And I'm going to get into why that is. I think it's very, very deliberate on the part of the author. So more mechanically, the book of Job is idiosyncratic as fuck. If you go and talk to most scholars and you look at like these commentaries and such and get into like the Hebrew of Job, you very quickly realize that whatever this form of Hebrew was not a real dialect that was spoken, because there are grammatical and terminological inconsistencies that are so idiosyncratic that they are just not like natural. Instead, what we tend to have is we have a bunch of these archaic and foreign sounding and looking words, and sometimes just actual loan words from other languages that don't have any kind of mechanical consistency when they're the way that they are used. There's a lot of archaism in Job, but there's also a lot of inconsistency with how much archaism there is. So, for example, the body of the poetry of Job is very well known for just being littered in archaisms, but then like all of the short little prosaic and introductions of the poetry, and the prose prologue and epilogue, and also the prose intro to the Elihu speeches are all late biblical Hebrew, which means that if we do think that this text is unitary, it was that the prologue and the epilogue were produced alongside the body of the text, that it can't be written early, because the poetry itself and in connection to the prologue and epilogue, it becomes just so inconsistent, and there's so many late features. Like one of the features that is very common in later biblical Hebrew are what are called matres lectionis. These are internal consonants being used to indicate vowels, basically. Early Hebrew and early Semitic languages in general are a lot more conservative with their usages of the matres lectionis, and that's because that development in orthography, how we write, hadn't really come about frequently yet. And there's a lot of work that's actually been done on that specific subject, and you can actually start dating texts based on when matres lectionis start appearing, and specific ones, and how they appear in words and function. Christopher Rolston has some really good work on this, and I think also Dennis Pardee, if I remember correctly. But essentially, in the late biblical Hebrew portions, we have more matres lectionis than in the more archaic sounding poetry, but then the poetry is also littered with other just breakages from its archaism, which has led scholars to posit all sorts of different theories trying to explain this. I think it would be irresponsible of me not to mention that part of this, and even like the text of Job, was so important to Christian commentators, and also the language was obscure enough that it led several, like Voltaire and other commentators, to make very anti-Semitic claims about the text, and very specifically that Jews couldn't possibly write something so amazingly elegant. And so they posited that it had to be written by Edomites or some other group. It's really gross anti-Semitism. However, I bring that up because that Edomite theory actually comes up again later. Robert Pfeiffer argued that it was Edomitic philosophy, and that this also explains like some of the foreign terminology, why it's set in this more faraway land, and they end up trying to identify Uts and other elements of the text as going back to the Transjordan and like the northern Arabian Peninsula area and places like that. Alfred Guillaume, also he was a scholar of Arabic, also argued that Arabic could explain a lot of the problems in the text as well. So he produced a translation that was heavily influenced by Arabic dictionaries and grammatical features and stuff like that. That one was mostly ruled out because the reason why Arabic can do that is just because we have so much Arabic by comparison to Hebrew that you can kind of find cognates for everything if you try hard enough. So it doesn't actually really tell us much. And then also, like, half of all the cognates are being grabbed from later Arabic texts, and so it's just a methodological mess to try and make that comparison. Another scholar tried to be more erudite with this, which was Natalie Tursunai, and he argued that the text was originally written in Aramaic and then was hodgepodge partially translated into Hebrew, leaving us with this absolute mess that we have today, which is a theory that I really like. I think it's wrong, but I really like it because
I know Simone really likes Tulsinai.
Yes, Simone loves Tursunai. He has a few other observations in his commentary that I want to go back to, but I think the best one to offer an explanation is Shunleong Sao in his commentary, and also in some papers he's published, which is essentially that the Book of Job is the way it is because the author was deliberately writing the way that often modern writers do, which is adding obscure foreign-sounding words and references and idiosyncrasies on purpose to give the text a stylistic flourish. The text is being deliberately made to sound older. It's being deliberately made to sound foreign because the text is trying to impart to the reader that it is something older and different, and and from a different social milieu than the contemporary Hebrew readers that would have been actually taking it in. So it includes like these little foreign words, kind of the same way that if I were to write like a German speaker speaking English, I might add in like different mispronunciations, like phonetic speaking that we do in like English texts, to imitate dialect, to imitate the style of different speakers and stuff like that, which is also why a whole bunch of this occurs not in the prose, but in the poetry specifically, where everyone is talking. I think that this explanation probably best fits the evidence that we have. And so it also goes into that it's being deliberately obscure on purpose. And part of that is probably also to do with the fact of when it was written. When it was written is kind of difficult to figure out, but I'm in the camp that thinks the prologue and epilogue were both authentic along with the poetry sections. I don't think the poetry even makes really much sense without the prose. Bookends.
I read when I first got into my activism in this area, it seemed to be back 20, 30 years ago, it seemed to be the popular opinion that Job was the oldest book of the Bible, and it had been said to be somewhere between 2100 and 1700 BC.
I don't
Oh
know
my
Yeah.
that
god.
that was ever a
Oh my god.
scholarly
I know.
opinion.
Oh my
If
god.
Yeah.
that would be the type of scholarship that I would have had received at my evangelical college.
Yeah, to my understanding, it came from the rabbis who noticed how archaized the language was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Today, like in the last 50 years, I don't know a single reputable scholar that's argued it. I've known one disreputable scholar that's argued it, which was Gleason Archer.
But he
was
went
it?
to Harvard, dude. Harvard.
He did indeed
For
go
what?
to Harvard. He went to Harvard for biblical studies, got a PhD in
Yeah.
biblical studies,
Yeah,
and
he did.
then this bonehead decided to argue that Job was the oldest book of the Bible, that it was carried out, or at the very least may have even been written by Moses, along with the Pentateuch. And I'm like, he was arguing this even after we knew that Hebrew didn't exist at that time.
Yeah.
No, yeah, imagine how I feel. You know, when I start investigating these things, I get a hold of Google. I type in what is the oldest book of the Bible. Job is the oldest book of the Bible. How old is the book of Job? 2100 BC. Oh, okay. So now I know a thing because there's a scholar that said that. So when I say anywhere online, you know that Job is the oldest book of the Bible, and it was within the last 30 years, then everybody comes down on me and says, "No, you fool! It's like 540 BC. That's it."
Yeah.
I mean, even Amos Chacham, who is relatively conservative, he writes that the likelihood that the author of Job lived at the time of Ezekiel during the Babylonian exile seems strong. So even with the conservatives, it's not even like the second millennium.
Yeah. No,
Ezekiel mentions Job.
I think the stuff that places it late is like a lot of the words that they use being like loan words or words that aren't known in early biblical Hebrew. Especially like if I remember properly from Sal, I'm trying to pull up the pages, but especially like animals, the names of animals, if I remember correctly.
yes, there are the names of animals in it. There's also the fact that it seems to have some knowledge of Genesis as well. And there's also evidence that it might even know Isaiah and including the later books of portions of Isaiah. For those that don't know, the book of Isaiah was probably written in multiple portions over time.
There's multiple Isaiahs, are there not?
Yeah, there's first, and then there's like Deutero and.
Yeah,
Kip, you have a video on it, don't you?
I was
On
aware
Isaiah?
of like 3 chunks, but obviously,
yeah, I do.
yeah, within.
So yeah, there's wide scholarly agreement that Isaiah's a composite work. The earliest portions potentially date back to like the 8th, 7th century BCE, but then there's big chunks that were added to it, much in the same way that the minor prophets as a collection grew over time. Same thing with the book of Isaiah. So I was going to mention in addition to that, I know some scholars think there's potentially a nod within the text of Job to the Behistun inscription, which was commissioned by Darius the First.
Oh, how
Yes,
interesting.
and
Yeah.
there's a
Darius.
yes, and there's a few other
Darius.
things.
Excuse
Let's
me.
not start. Let's not start.
I will start. I will start. You know how
No.
nitpicky I am on this.
There are a few other things as well.
Oh yes,
that
famous
indicate-
Farsi speaker Tomer is gonna let
Sorry,
us know the pronunciation of
Daryavish.
Darius.
Wait,
Thank
I want to
you.
hear the rest of what Chrissy was going to say.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there are a few other indicators of a later date as well, which is that it seems to refer to some Arabian tribes from later in the prologue, which we don't have a whole lot of evidence were existing widely known in the area until at least after the Assyrian conquest. And then there are a few other elements. So there's like even portions that might reference like inscriptions on stone, which was a wide feature of Arabian epigraphy at the and I'm when I'm talking about a wide feature, I'm talking like we have hundreds of thousands of these inscriptions. The leading scholar in the United States on this is Ahmad al-Jalad, who's done immense work on this subject. But it basically there are enough Arabian sounding elements and references that it's what led scholars like Galam in his essay here, The Arabic Background of the Book of Job, to conclude that it was probably written in Arabia. And if I remember correctly, he even identifies it like around the area of Taman. It's pretty wild. But all of that it seems to indicate a potentially later date. Another thing I think indicates a later date is actually just the entire function of Hasatan in the text. Hasatan it is very easily in this text is very easily parallel to his functions also in the book of Zechariah, where he is an accuser bringing up basically potential faults in Job at the behest of God.
And I don't want to sidetrack, but your use of the term Hasatan, I'm guessing, is written in the Hebrew, where it's normally not phrased that way. And I see Hasatan being derived from the Zoroastrianism, the accuser, the enemy, the opposer, typically the critic or skeptic of faith is how I interpret that. Would you agree?
I mean, he could be related to that. We do know that there are similar accuser functions within ancient Near East pantheons just in general. Like, this is not a particularly Zoroastrian trait specifically, but the specific way that he seems to function by going to Earth and watching people and spying on them for potential fault specifically is what led scholars like Natali Tursunai to actually conclude he's basically paralleling the court spy in Persian courts.
Yeah, I think a good way to think about Hasatan is like he's God's divine prosecutor. So like if you want to if God's the judge, there's going to be a prosecutor who takes people to account, and like he's the one giving out the charges, right? So that's essentially the function of Hasatan.
Right. And so
sorry, no, I was going to say I don't know that this is a specific court functionary either. In my opinion, it seems like the Satan is just a member of the council, and it could be any member of the council at any given time. There are functionaries within the divine council, within the biblical text, who take the role of Satan even without taking the title.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's like a very specific deity in mind. Like,
no.
It's not a specific role. Similarly, in Psalm 82. That's the
82.
enthronement psalm. God is in that function and is accusing the rulers of the earth, which are the other gods, of failing in their role, and he's accusing them in the court of El.
Exactly.
I do love when God plays devil's advocate.
Psalm 82.
I like
Touching.
when God, the all-powerful, says the devil made me do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For a quick second there, when you said that he takes the role of court spy and goes around spying on people and then reports back to God, I just had a sudden vision of Elf on the Shelf. Just like going around and spying on people and reporting back to Santa. I was like, oh dear God, it's Elf on the Shelf. It's Elf on the Shelf. But
I mean, there's also a little bit of Satan kind of being almost an instigator as well. Like God is like, you have part of your job is to see if they will curse me or they will sin if you do something to them. Like so Satan almost is like he's able to cause you to sin as well, but only in
tests you,
in the job of
pokes and prods and.
And by the way, Chrissy,
he's not
I've
doing
seen
it because of God.
I've seen a number of comments to the effect that you have a fan base on this show. So
Well, that's good to know.
She's got a fan base everywhere. Big
It's
Chrissy
true.
stan
Lawrence has
over
been
here.
hyping you like so much, and I'm really glad to see you, and especially for Joe, because I have heard so much conflicting nonsense in my day, as I'm sure you can imagine, and I'm really interested to get better tea.
Christy got me out of some cult mentality, so I'm very appreciative of that.
So before I'm going to get off my high horse here pretty soon, I do want to make a few notes about some of the other transmissions of Job because they're really fun. So because Job is so obscure and so difficult to translate, the translations of Job are insane and are absolute joys. The old Greek, so what we now call the Septuagint Job, the LXX Job, is actually a hodgepodge of multiple Greek translations of Job. And it actually comes about in no small part because the original Greek translation, the old Greek translation is what we call it now, is about 300 to 400 lines shorter than the Hebrew text.
Oh dear.
Yes. Now, a lot of these can just be summarized as coming from the fact that they're basically just reducing repetition because there's a lot of repetition in the couplets of Job because that's kind of just how Hebrew poetry works is you have couplets that kind of repeat the same kind of theme overlapping with each other. And they get more and more elaborate as time goes on. And they call back to each other as well. The translators for the old Greek translation basically just decide to cut a lot of that out. However, there's other portions where they clearly didn't understand the Hebrew. And they clearly didn't... and this led to one of two things happening. Either mistranslation at various points. And that happens a lot, including mistranslating... proper names as common nouns.
Ooh. Oh dear.
And then also the problem of leaving out just huge portions of the text that they couldn't translate.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and instead of the land of Uz, they use Ausitidi, and I mean I know that's the data.
Ausitis, yes.
But I'm not. What does that refer to? I didn't actually check any translation of this.
It's not really clear, but it says that it is in 42-17 on the borders of Idumea and Arabia.
Right, and that comes from the fact that the Greek translators were of the impression that Job is Jobab from Genesis, who is an Edomite ruler.
Oh, how interesting.
And so, actually, Greek translation at the very end has this whole appendix to verse 17, 42:17. I think that's the last verse of the book of Job. And in it, basically gives a genealogy and more of an account of who Job was as a person, going back to Genesis.
Wow.
So it's not only does it contain real these additions and elaborations, and it also is like radically shorter in the actual text that it was translating. And this is a similar problem that persists across the board. For example, like the Aramaic Targum of Job is like quite a bit shorter, but it's also because it's a Targum. It's Targumim, so they're
No, I mean it has like midrashic expansions,
right.
All Targums have. Though there is an Aramaic Targum from Qumran, but I think it is fragmentary.
I don't know if you would
Yes.
call it a. I mean, we call it a Targum just because it's an Aramaic translation of the Book of Job, but it doesn't. It's not like the Targumim.
Yeah, of course.
In that it's just.
I should have been clear that I was talking about the Dead Sea Scroll fragments that we have specifically.
Oh, okay. Interestingly enough, this is the only Aramaic translation of any part of the Bible in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I mean, if you're not counting things like the Genesis Apocryphon, which lots of people don't, and at that point you start to, and anyways,
you're starting to split some hairs at that point.
Certainly are.
Yeah.
Biblical scholarship splitting hairs? No.
And actually, one more thing on
the there's blood on the carpet, Lilith.
One more thing on a Dead Sea Scrolls that is fun is actually that the Book of Job is one of those that we have fragments written in Paleo Hebrew there as well. It is, and so which basically, for those that aren't familiar, basically means that it's not written in the Aramaic block text that we now most familiarly think of as the Hebrew text, right?
Yeah,
the Paleo Hebrew.
It's like the Phoenician. If you know the Phoenician alphabet, it's pretty much very similar. But yeah, Second Temple period, there was kind of a bit of a revival, kind of back to life. Yeah, like a kind of revival.
It's that's part of the. Yeah, so the Paleo Hebrew that we know from the Dead Sea Scrolls is so that it's a revived script. It's not the same as traditional Hebrew that we know from inscriptions and from ostraca and from engravings and things like that in the Two Kingdom period from the pre-exilic time. So it's interesting.
I don't know if they're related.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're related, but the Samaritans use their own kind of version. I don't know if that was. I think it was also probably some sort of revival that they did, and their characters. You can see where they come from, how similar they are, but they're definitely different. They still use it.
One last thing I want to say before we begin. I want to point out that first of all, we apparently have a troll that jumped in early on and has done so on a few shows, but always disappears when we get started, so that they can't be directly addressed. And this person accuses me of not being willing to read Psalms 22 because I know the truth.
Oh my God! Oh no!
Not this again. We did this last time. They tried to pull that Psalm 22. We spent the first 20 minutes discussing the bullshit of Psalm 22.
Yeah,
and I think we concluded that Robert Green-Ingersoll exists to foreshadow me. So there we go.
Jeez, Aaron, at first I thought you were talking about me.
Oh, no, we love you, Jeff.
What I want to point out is that I have invited believers to come to take part of the show. I even invited one of them to be on the panel if they want to find out how we know, right? But they don't. And I think it's important why they don't, because it's habitual. When I offer to prove evolution, right? It's just like when you turn the kitchen light on and the cockroaches scatter. That's what happens. So I have the feeling that a lot of these believers know that they're full of shit and that really is just pretend, and that's why they can't be here to be dealt with directly.
They're afraid and unwilling to admit their fear, but it's also very much based in magical thinking. Part of the expression of your faith is to rely on thinking that the truth of God is magical, and if you just say it in the right way and run away, it will perform a magical feat of converting those who are, touched by the Spirit.
Well, the truth of God is magical. That's why it doesn't exist.
I mean,
I prefer the truth of Gandalf. He's cooler.
I mean, I'll just say for all the believers that are watching, like, from the commentaries that we're reading, the vast majority of all these people were practicing Jews and Christians that are writing these commentaries. The vast majority. In fact, I don't think I know a single leading commentary on Job written by an atheist. So
the
There's a gap in the market.
Dr. Kip gives us side eye.
Well, I did make a video about Job.
I mean, even myself, I'm not an atheist. Like, I'm probably the only person on the panel that isn't. But so it's like there's no issue for me here. Like, basically, what I'm going to say is, if your faith is so shallow that you have to literalize and historicize everything in the Bible, then your faith deserves to collapse. It's not a good faith. Like,
True.
What's the point of having faith without mythology and mysticism? Anyways.
And then I noticed we were been joined by a wild Jeff. So
yay!
Welcome aboard. Guys. And again, we've done a really long introduction on this. I hope that this was long enough to satisfy Lawrence. Kip says he wants to read this first chapter.
Trust me. Nothing is long enough to satisfy me.
Ooh, girl.
So that's the show we're having today. Well, I think I'm gonna have to drink some of my Crystal Skull over here.
Oh, are we gonna get drunk today? I am prepared.
From that statement,
oh shit, I am not prepared.
Okay.
Kip, would you please get this show started 45 minutes in?
Yeah, sure. All right. So this is going to be controversial because this is my own translation. And it's probably going to sound different to a lot of people, and I'm sure that Chris is going to have some things to say about this.
I am so excited.
But this is my efforts to be as faithful as I can to what I think is happening in the actual language of the prologue. Excuse me. Job chapter 1. There was a man in the land of Uz. Job was his name. And this man was upright and honest. He was a God-fearer and a sidestepper from evil. And there were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters, and his holdings comprised 7,000 flock, 3,000 camels, 500 pairs of oxen, 500 donkeys, and a very large number of slaves. That man was greater than all the sons of the east. Now it was customary for his sons to hold a feast, each on his own day in his house. And they would send and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. So it was, after a round of feast days, Job would send and sanctify them. Then, rising early each morning, he would make burnt offerings, enough for all of them. So, Job did this all the time. It was the day that the sons of God came to present themselves before Yahweh, and the Satan also entered into their company. Then Yahweh said to the Satan, "Where have you been?" And the Satan answered Yahweh and said, "From roaming the earth and walking about on it." Yahweh then said to the Satan, "Have you set your heart on my slave Job? For there is no one like him on earth, a sinless and righteous man, fearing God and sidestepping evil." The Satan responded to Yahweh and said, "Is it for nothing that Job fears God? Have you not built a hedge around him and his house, surrounding all he has round about? You have blessed the work of his hands to the point that his livestock has burst the seams of the earth. But now, perhaps you stretch your hand and ruin all he has. Will he then bless you to your face? So Yahweh said to the Satan, look, everything that is his is in your hand. Only against him you shall not stretch your hand. And the Satan went out from the face of Yahweh. Then it happened that day, his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in the house of their brother, the firstborn. And a messenger came to Job, and he said, the cattle were plowing and the donkeys were grazing at their hand. Then Sheba fell and took them. They slaughtered the boys by the mouth of the sword, and only I alone, survived to report to you. While this one was still speaking, another entered and said, fire of the gods has fallen from the sky. It burned up the flock and devoured the boys. I, and only I alone, survived to report to you. While this one was still speaking, another entered and said, Kasdim, set into 3 units. They plundered the camels and slaughtered the boys by the mouth of the sword. And only I alone, survived to report to you. While this one was still speaking, another entered and said, your sons and your daughters were eating and drinking wine in the house of their brother, the firstborn. Then look, a great wind came from across the wilderness. It struck the 4 corners of the house. It fell upon the boys, and they died. Only I alone survived to report to you. Then Job stood up. He tore his robe and sheared his head. He fell to the ground, and they bowed low. And he said, naked I emerged from my mother's stomach, and naked I shall return there. Yahweh has given, and Yahweh has taken. The name of Yahweh is blessed. In all of this, Job did not sin. He did not give a callous prayer to the gods.
All right.
Mhm.
So a couple things there. I don't know what verse was it. Verse 17, where another one came and said Kasdim.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean,
Is that
usually it is translated as the Chaldeans.
Okay, gotcha.
But the
It's
Hebrew
interesting,
is
but
Kasdim.
is it related in any way to the you translated as sons of the east there?
B'nai
I think
Kedem. No.
no, it's not. Okay.
I mean, I think the Chaldeans, the Babylonians are related to the Chaldeans. Am I right? Or like the Chaldeans?
Yeah.
Well, sure, but I think
Babylonians.
also even the custom there were
Yeah.
also thought of as that way. I think there's a note in Sal about it.
The
Yeah, about
word
the
husband
Easterners.
is
Yeah, the
used
B'nai.
when talking about
B'nai
Abraham.
Kedem. That's my bad. I got the.
Yeah.
I was misremembering this. Refers generally to the people across the Jordan, anywhere from Haran and Aram in the north to Kedar in Arabia in the south. In the tale of Sinuhe, Kedem refers to the Asiatic lands east of Byblos. Okay, gotcha. And in the list of cities conquered
Yeah.
by Tutmosis III, Kedem is mentioned with the Transjordanian cities of Patna and Rabbah. At the same time, the term Kedem may also have the nuance of antiquity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, because it means
within
That's my bad.
And
I
Kid,
want
was
to note
your
that how
definition?
Wait.
Oh,
sorry. Yeah, Kedar means like east because that's the way forward when you're facing the rising sun.
Yeah.
So like, but like, you could also, depending on like what language, how they think about time, in front of you is back in time.
there's also this
Quite a lot of
well-worn
languages.
trope that everything kind of originated in the East. That the East represents great antiquity and it's mysterious the farther east you go, and there's this sense that that it's, and I think this is intentional on the author here to situate this. as Kenthoven says in China, it's Job is Chinese. No, please, no, don't clip that. Don't take that seriously. There is this sense of great antiquity and also just he's so far away out there. I think that or at least he's sorry, he's not. He's compared to the sons of the East as those almost
it
figures of legend, being so far away.
tastes
That
like exoticism.
yes, that's it.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that's also with like the references to the Sheba and to the Kasdim. Like the Sheba are arguably like the Sabaeans, who were an Arabian kingdom in specifically all the way down in South Arabia, but they had trade going all the way up into Israel, and actually they spoke a fairly related language. They were all part of the Central Semitic language group. But you know, you're talking about them, and then the Kasdim, who are essentially maybe Chaldeans are often associated with the Chaldeans, who are like Babylonians. So you're talking about like this huge geographic area, and it's just meant to be this vast expanse that he exists somewhere in. It's the faraway land. It's a nondescript place, but a foreign Eastern place separated from us nonetheless.
Fancy and exotic and foreign and you know.
So strange.
Yeah, custom is also mentioned when with Abraham, because it says that Abraham comes from Ur Kasdim, like the city of Ur in Kasdim, with the Ur of the Chaldeans is normally how it's translated, or Chaldeans.
Which is also how we can also be very clear that this text is also not from like 2000 BC. It's referencing Sabaeans. Like the minute you're referencing people groups that didn't exist in that time period, you know it can't be written in that time period. Same as like Genesis referencing Philistines. Like we know it can't be that old.
But obviously, don't you know that history is actually wrong?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Right, yeah.
It's
if you make a nasty pun about his story and Jesus, I'm going to find a way to hit you with something. I don't care if I have to cross international borders.
Oh, that was close. I was really close to doing that, man.
Yeah, we also have like raids from the Kasdim, which you could think of as being in the Far East, like Babylonia. But then you also have the Shva, the Sabians or Sabians, which are normally identified with like Southern Arabia, Yemen, or even like Ethiopia. So, like the Queen of Sheba.
Yeah.
I came a little late. Kip, that was your translation. Did I hear that correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have to say that it was like usually my book is the Catholic version, and it is very antithetical and different from everyone else's. Yours was more accurate than my book for the first time. I thought that was interesting. I just wanted to comment that, but there's very few different things I've noticed on here. Nothing really to remark, but just wanted.
Perhaps we should check the KJV, the best translation.
Yes.
I know.
It's great if you want poetry, if you want just like Yule style quotable shit, or if you want to know where they stole the style of the Book of Mormon. That's it. That's its function.
Okay. Kip, I have one question for you.
Yes.
Particularly, which is the last verse you translate the Elohim as plural.
The gods, yeah.
Yeah.
Not I'm mostly just being cheeky.
Okay.
Now, I think too within the setting that this is not a completely unacceptable choice.
Because you just got done
Just
talking
because
about
of the action, the divine counsel in the first place. There is a clear awareness. This is Yahweh's counsel, but there is a clear awareness that there's a plurality of deities here. I feel like I need to before we continue, and I just because I want to get to it, but this is something that came up recently, and it really has bothered me. So I need to say something at the outset. This came up maybe a week ago on another show. Somebody had mentioned that in their English readings of the Book of Job, it sure sounds like the three daughters of Job, when they're hanging out in the house of their brothers and having parties, that there must be more going on there. They must be having sex with each other, because
my
why
God.
else would Job feel the need to, make restitution and offer sacrifices and sanctify his children? So I was in the chat and I pointed out that this is patented nonsense.
Thank you.
And somebody doubled down on the basis of Chat GPT to challenge me on this fact, but I need to just reinforce this to people. Look, it's not hard to make the Bible say silly things, or to recognize that the Bible says silly things, or that there's a lot of really terrible, reprehensible things in there. We don't need to make shit up. And
No, we don't.
you don't need to do this. And I think this is just a fundamental misunderstanding of the story in the first place. This story of Job, in my opinion, is absurd, intentionally so. Job's an absurd guy, intentionally so. And part of the point here is that he's going to such great lengths to protect his own holdings, to protect his own family, to protect his own reputation and his standing before God, that he's going so far as to even do this. But from a technical perspective, notice that he's offering sacrifices in the first place. He tells us why. Just in case they might have said something untoward. He actually says they blessed God in their hearts. It says that he offers sacrifices specifically on the basis of chata, which is sin. And this is a technical term. These are sacrifices we know from the book of Leviticus that you offer in the event of inadvertent shortcomings. So no, they're not having sex in their oldest brother's house. That's not happening. Please stop saying stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's
luck
just like
with
he's
that.
successful, he's rich, he has sons, and these sons have nice family, wholesome meetings. They get along with each other.
Yeah.
Like he's got a nice
exactly.
family that he's proud of, and even
This is it.
though he will, just in case they might say something,
Yeah,
It is.
the text states why he does it. It's preventative.
Yes.
It's cautionary. It's not even that they've done anything. It is purely just from Job's own speculation that perhaps they might have. So here's something I'm going to just do as a preventative, just in case.
Just in case they accidentally sinned, they're covered, and I know they're good.
And it's wild because he says, in case they said something in their heart, like not even a verbalization here, right?
No.
Did they have an untoward thought towards God? I better cover for that.
Yeah, like if the text was about them having incest, I'm pretty sure it would have just said, in case they committed incest, here's some offerings. The Bible isn't exact. Like the Bible's not exactly known for hiding.
Modest.
Yeah,
they would.
Even if the text is trying to be modest, I would think there would be different sorts of sacrifices that Job would be offering.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
well,
that's also what I wanted.
Right.
That's what I also wanted to note here is that you read through the first chapter, and while the Mosaic covenant is not actively invoked by name anywhere in the book of Job, it's underlying the text.
It's an awareness. Yeah.
There is a general awareness of what's going on, and that's what Job is here interacting with. So also, if it was incest, we would expect something very different, which would be
yes.
putting them to death.
Yes, it would. And let's be honest, the Bible has never, ever been shy about talking about highly disturbing forms of incest. Ever.
Well,
Or just giving us pointless information constantly, such as in Chronicles 1 and 2. I mean, my
No,
I
God,
can
don't let-
understand
don't let
why
Tomer
apologists
hear you say
might
that.
want to.
sorry, Tomer.
I can
I-
understand why apologists might want to give these children some sort of sin so that God has an excuse for why he's allowed to kill them for no reason.
right.
Doesn't make
They really, really want God to be completely blameless in this situation, which is just antithetical to the book of Job. The entire point of the book of Job is quite literally God in the end did not have cause for what happens.
Yeah.
And I think that when we get to the epilogue of the text, there's I think a really, really fun reading that Simone and I have been working out together for a little bit, which is specifically that Job's complaint is a lawsuit.
And he should have
what we're
won,
going to
and
come up
he
with.
won damages.
I would
He
sue
won
too.
damages.
Yeah.
That's an interesting.
He
way
did,
of
yeah.
looking
He got,
Yeah,
and it's not
did.
clear because
Yeah.
he does get like his family back, but is it his family or is it like a
No.
new one?
That's
Spoiler alert, Lawrence.
that's part of
Jeez.
this, right?
Sorry.
Okay, so I might be in the minority. I think that it is actually his original children that are restored to him, plus additional damages. He's compensated for the initial losses that were made, which necessitates the restoration of what he lost. So his initial family, plus the actual damage, plus additional damages and punitive damages essentially on God's behalf, because he has to also expand on what Job had initially too. So he has more property at the end and more belongings at the end as basically a punitive compensation for all the trouble that was caused.
Here, I always had the impression that his beloved children were killed, and then they were just replaced with, ordering one random Semitic boy from, delivered by Amazon.
Oh no. It's very important that they note that the new daughters of Job were hotter than the old ones, because that's a father's primary concern when he's burying his children. Can I get an upgrade?
Okay, and I like how Kip pointed out that the story is ridiculous, deliberately so, and the central character is ridiculous, deliberately so. It's almost as if this isn't history. There's another thing that really happened. It's like a fable with a moral.
Yeah,
we couldn't have
and you
that.
can hear it too in the formulaic repetition of how the story unfolds, particularly there towards the end with the servants stepping in one after the other to
There's an
the
idea that
boys,
these
as
are
I
angels.
translated, which is sorry.
Yes. Yeah,
And
you
the
said boys.
moral of this. I'm sorry. Go,
No, sorry.
I-
Yeah, there is an idea that those are angels as part of like Satan's plan is to bring Job the bad
Oh,
news
yeah.
one step at a time, starting with something small and working up to your children have
Yeah.
all died.
And the
Yeah.
moral of the whole story is summarized in the lyrics of Journey's most famous song. Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling.
So
What
when
did I say?
when
The answer
I
is always God is an asshole.
when I write, when I've written about Job in a couple of places in my new book, and when I do so, and I brought this this particular text up to you, Aaron, when we did the live stream last month, but there's a passage from Ecclesiastes that I think nods to this. I think the writer of Ecclesiastes might have Job in view when he's writing this, and he says this is Kohelet 7 verses 15 through 18. It's my favorite Bible passage. There is a paradox. The righteous may perish in their righteousness, and the wicked may prolong their evil. Do not be excessively righteous or overly wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Do not be excessively wicked or foolish. Why should you die before your time? It is good to grasp one and not let go of the other. The God-fearer. Sorry, I cracked there. That was weird. The God-fearer, I did it again. The God-fearer will come out of them all. And, importantly, the writer here has used this important term, God-fearer, to summarize his thoughts, which is also the way that Job is described in the prologue here. Now this is also important to point out. This is also a term that is often used by biblical writers to indicate non-Israelites who were faithful, were good people. So I think that's part of what's going on here too. But one of the things that I really focus on is what exactly Job is doing, and what is his motivation, and what is the problem in this story. I'm not so sure. I'll just say this. I'm not so sure that in the courtroom drama, God is propping up and going, look at my boy. He's such a great boy. Have you noticed this? What a great boy he is? I think it's more like this. Have you seen this guy? Super rich, super pious, seems to do everything right. What do you think about him? I think it's more like that.
Should probably call him Jack Walker at that point.
It's very specifically predicated on the fact that God is not omnipresent and is not omniscient. He doesn't necessarily know that Job is actually righteous, and so that is part of how Hasatan functions, is to root out people who God is not sure of.
Yeah.
Oh, so
that's why he needs that prosecutor to build a case.
He's a dumbass.
I've got some comments that are building up, so let me dive onto those.
All right.
Dara Hokane, 4236, says, "What does Satan or God get out of it? If Satan wins the bet, how does that help him?"
So can I just point out too, and I'll let Chrissy. I think Chrissy should probably say something about this, but I'm just going to say at the start that formulating this or framing this like it's a wager, I think, is a mistake. It's not a bet. It's well, you go, Chrissy.
No. You're the doctor.
Oh, God, I mean, no. So it's not a bet. It's not a wager. The Satan isn't. The Satan is just, as I say a number of times when I talk about this, the Satan is just doing his job, and we see this laid bare in the text in verse. Which one is it? It's verse. So where they came to present themselves, and he was in their company. Where have you been? From roaming the earth and walking about on it. That term is significant. That's mitalik, I believe. It's a form of the verb in Hebrew, which is used in a couple of interesting ways. In the first place, it's used most frequently of divine beings.
I think, if I remember
God,
properly, isn't that doesn't that also show up in Zechariah, or am I misremembering?
I have to go back and look.
Yeah, I probably misremembered.
But I know. So for example, Genesis chapter 3, Yahweh God hitalex. He walks about in the Garden of Eden. It's used. I think it's also used in. I'm not going to say it. I have a list somewhere because it's kind of interesting to see that this is a term. This is what is said of Enoch: walked about with the gods and was taken. So it's divine activity. There's something about this term, but also in the hit peal, which is the form that this verb takes, it's usually reflexive, but it also can carry with it the connotation of something that you do customarily. It's repeated behavior. It's the kind of behavior that is part of your being, part of your character. So what this is saying is that this is what the Satan is about. He's doing his job. He's going around and just doing what he does all the time. So he is a functionary of the court. Yahweh seeks him out. Where have you been? Have you considered my slave Job? It's at the prompting of Yahweh that all of this happens in the first place. And the Satan is just responding for the most part. There's a bit, certainly when you get into chapter 2.
He's mostly just giving a report in this first section.
Yeah.
These are my findings. This is what I went and I observed, and I think he may curse you because he's just rich and he's been protected for so long.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that's absolutely right. Like, framing this as a bet just fundamentally misunderstands the actual functions of what's going on, and also then leads to the rest of the story making absolutely no sense, especially the epilogue. It makes no sense if you read it as a wager at all.
No.
Yeah, it's the title of the book. It's Satan's Job.
Right.
I mean, it can't be a bet with the devil, because that would mean that if God loses, then the devil gets God's soul. And God,
And they could
normally
just
you would
gone for a
expect
fiddle
God
contest.
and normally there'd be like a combination of, there would be a musical, conflict, be it violins or guitars.
Oh, definitely go for the guitars.
I don't know. Good fiddle. Can't knock that.
That goes down to Georgia. I can't argue that one. It is a goodie.
Admittedly, the idea of Satan placing wagers is much of it's a later idea. And, the devil went down to Georgia is one of the more fun variants of it, but you have Faust and other ideas. But that's, again, very much a later Christian devil thing. I think...
And Lost.
I also like that in that version of Satan, the supposed Lord of Lies is always cast as having, he's held by his honor and by his word.
He's like a fae. He has to literally keep his word. And it's ridiculous. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Nothing about the Christian mythology makes any kind of consistent sense. But I think it's interesting to point out, I almost feel like the idea of this being a bet was someone who was just absolutely sick of people making excuses for God's bad behavior, just going, this looks like two assholes, bet on a guy's life and fucked it up for shits and gigs. Because, the Christians making their excuses for why we have no right to complain, and they're still saying this all the time, that we have no right to complain if anything bad happens to us because God is God, so how dare you have standards, but he also loves you, but you can't expect anything from him, and that, etc., etc., etc. And someone just called bullshit. And honestly, yeah.
It is an interesting thought that God would bless me with all this wealth and these children and this wonderful life. Oh, except for the tornado that happened yesterday, or the volcano that went off and destroyed all these things. So how do you reconcile all of that being the same God?
Well, how about this one? This is the one that just irritates me to no end, right? God's supposed to be what? The super powerful, the one that has everything, is everything, all knowing, all seen, all this stuff that they say. Why would he even care to have a bet with his own supposed fallen angel in the first place? What's the game here? What's the point? Is he just that bored?
He should know the outcome.
I'm not trying to be funny about it, but it's so ridiculous on the face of it.
I think like because like I know where you're coming from, right? This this kind of
Just a plebs version.
this like this very late interpretation that's very that interprets everything univocally. While I see the rhetorical use in that kind of argumentation, I think when we are actually studying these texts, we need to throw that out because we already know that's not the case.
We do know, but because our audience is varied, I think it's important to address it. We don't need to spend a lot of time on it necessarily, but that is a distinct reality, and pointing out what people have been lied to about this text and the falsehoods in the interpretations that they are more familiar with, even just briefly, is, I think, part of education, because the greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, but the illusion of knowledge. And yeah there's a lot of that.
So, Lawrence, that's actually what I was getting at. So, yes, we are coming from this from a very clinical and very scholarly point of view, but a lot of people are not scholars, and so the reason why I make jokes and things like that in this case is because there's a lot of stuff in here which is baffling and also added on and ad hoc way past the time when these were originally written, and people have misinterpreted and confused it, which is why we have so many different sects and why we have so many construed ideas, different versions. And so this is why I get baffled by it, because when I hear it from my own point of view, from when I've read this, it just never ceases to amaze me that people are still being swayed by these things after all of the obvious evidence of how crazy it all is. So that's my point. Anyway, I'm not trying to digress.
Yeah, and in terms of like rhetorical effect, like I understand the need and the benefits of having having rhetorical tools for causes. Like I'm no stranger to it as a very, very active person for social justice and stuff like that. It is quite necessary. And I think that in this case, actually, what we're going to find at the end of this of the Book of Job is that actually just reading the Book of Job as it is written will arguably give you more of a rhetorical benefit than the bet or anything like that ever would have to begin with. Because the way that the Book of Job ends is we have Job issuing his complaint now which is going to be for the next several chapters and his interactions with his friends. And his friends are endorsing the covenant. They claim that Job must have done something wrong. They're like, bad things essentially only happen when you violate your covenant with God, when you violate your relationship with him in some capacity that incurs, a correction of some kind in the form of some kind of punitive justice.
Yeah, very post-exilic theology there.
Yeah, and what's going to happen at the very end of this text is that God says, "What my servant Job has spoken about me is true." And not only that, in order for those three friends are then basically in the hot seat, and Job has to make offerings on their behalf because God will not even hear them. That is essentially, not only does Job win the lawsuit, God essentially admits he's right in even issuing his complaint in the first place, which is, I think, rhetorically way more powerful than God had a bet. Like okay, like an omnipotent deity having a bet with a lesser deity, worst it comes to worst, it just means that the omnipotent deity is like flexing. Worst comes to worst here means that humans have the ability to bring charges against God and win.
And I would love to get in on that court because I have a list.
I think yeah, that's
And well, I
the
completely
court
agree
here.
with you, Chrissy. And I think that your point is very valid. There is always more impact in detail and truth. However, nonetheless, not everyone is going to come for that journey, and
Yes.
sometimes you have to meet people where they are.
Yes.
And so, being aware of those simpler forms and addressing them briefly is still not without value, but we definitely shouldn't let it take over. And in that spirit, let's return to the scholarship.
Agreed.
Did we go through all the comments?
No, we didn't.
Oh, hey, Tom, you got any comments?
No.
No.
I was talking
No!
about chat comments.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay, so hail, let's see, my unfinished song says, hail Aaron and Panel and hail Job from faraway China.
Ooh.
That.
Niall.
Yeah, my unfinished sock, which always makes me giggle when I see that name, says, don't make nasty puns about Jesus. Like and share the stream instead. Thank you. And then
Why not both?
Danger Man, 1973, offers $10, thank you, and says, I am only atheist in my entire family, and relatives of Christians and Catholics, and peer pressure and crucifixes in the house. I live brainwashing at living F out of me, giving me religious trauma.
That sounds like
Lilith,
my
do you have
life.
any experience with that?
Oh, just a little bit. Admittedly, I didn't have much in the Catholic variant in my trauma, but it's a mixed bag and it's all insane. And I think it's why a lot of us get into a witchcraft phase just because we were told that the devil would get us if we did. So, sometimes you have to just get the monkey off your back and be like, I'm going to do it anyway. Look at that. Look at me all not possessed. Ooh.
My 70-plus member family on my dad's side are almost exclusively Catholic and some form of extremist Christian. So, believe me, I totally understand you, Ginger Man. Absolutely right there with you.
I'm from a 150-year-long line of Methodist pastors, so
I bow to you, Christy. I bow to you.
Oh, honey.
Hey,
Oh.
I'm waiting until you
I have
become a
been
Methodist
humbled.
pastor.
The pastor's kid. Okay, honey, if you are ever in my country, we are getting wine.
well, okay, real quick, what kind of Methodist?
Okay, no, I was okay. I was. Oh,
There's a correct kind, and it's free Methodist.
Yeah, no. I actually, my parents were in the Jesus movement. They were the hippies.
Oh,
And so I went through Vineyard, Evangelical, Pentecostal, Baptist, but the chill Baptist, not the creepy, I can only wear skirts Baptist. And then I also worked at a Presbyterian, moonlighted at an Anglican, did a few events at a Catholic, but that was just a sub thing. And yeah, I didn't get a lot of Methodist in my grab bag, but I do know the struggles of what it is to be a pastor's kid. And oh my God, honey, we are.
I wasn't personally a pastor's kid, but my grandfather, great grandfather, great great grandfather, great 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 grandfather were all pastors, and then my dad was an active missionary.
You
my
were
mom
an
was
MK?
My mom was an
Like
active missionary.
gemstones.
So you were a missionary kid. That's worse than pastor's kid. Sometimes it depends, but sometimes that can be
Yeah.
worse.
And then
Okay.
and my mom's parents were missionaries in Gideon's. So
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. There will be a winery tour. We
So
will.
what
Yeah.
What I'm hearing
So
is
much.
that most of us at one point had Jesus,
yes.
and it didn't solve all our problems like we were told today in the chat that it would.
Oh, actually, it
I mean,
gave
I
me
never
many
had
more
Jesus.
problems and made several of my problems absolutely unbearable that would have just been horrific without Jesus.
I was so far down in it that I never got baptized because I believed I was too sinful, that God would never accept me, and I didn't want to insult him by being baptized. And so instead, I went out doing missionary work and trying to convince everyone to be Christians in the ways that I could never be.
Wow.
Right. So the
Wow.
Cooper depression. Yeah.
Kuiper.
Whereas I
Oh.
believed a
Oh,
similar
so
form
cool.
of hyper importance of baptism and personal, but I had a dramatic get baptized in a lake at 14 because publicly just arranged with me and my best friend, and we did it together because we were just so committed and we had to show everybody who didn't know or care what the fuck we were doing, so it's comes from the same. I'm very
Yeah.
familiar with this mindset.
Yeah,
Got a
no,
more
it's,
serious-
You.
it's why I connected so much with the Book of Job, actually.
Oh, I get it. Oh my God.
I have a decades-long love of this book because it was a real comfort for me for a long time.
Oh,
Wow.
honey, that is such
So-
a toxic form of comfort. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
Well,
were comforted, but also it's very like reinforce the abuse kind of vibes. Oh,
Should we get?
Yes, but I have to. I'm afraid I have another engagement here shortly, so I'm going to have to run. Fucking dinosaurs.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways,
Get-
I
get
did
me on a
want
show.
to. Okay. But before I go, one thing, and I'm sure you guys are gonna beat the ever loving shit out of this point. But before I go, and I'm surprised nobody commented on it when I did do my reading, but there are places where the text says that translates cursing God, which I translated as blessing God. This is usually explained as a euphemism.
Yeah,
I'm
double
not-
entendre, basically.
Yeah, it's got. I think maybe that's part of what's at work here, but I think there's a lot more to it. And I also think
Right. remember
that this is a very important word in the prologue part of this this text. Certainly, it does pick up on it a little bit in the conclusion as
Before
well.
you go,
But
I think
yeah.
you need to hear the next comment.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then okay.
Yeah. So story time Jesus says, I have heard that Job's preamble and conclusion were added later, totally changing the gist of
Ooh.
Job. What is the
No.
consensus?
So, and Chrissy will say more about this. I'm gonna run here, but I'll just give my my 2 cents. I used to think that the epilogue was a late addition, a sloppy late addition. I've since changed my mind. I really think, as she pointed out in her introduction, the story, the rest of the book really doesn't work very well without the prologue and the epilogue. And I do think that one of the reasons they seem maybe a little out of place is part of the absurdity of what's of everything that's going on in this story. So I think they're integral to the understanding of the book of Job, always have been. But I'll also say too, something that I play around with quite a bit when I read the book of Job is just, and I honestly don't know. I like to think that the writers of this book are this smart and this clever, but I think part of this, part of the art of reading this book is seeing a lot of this stuff as a meta narrative, situating the reader inside the story, positioning the reader in the place of Job, in the place of his friends, very intentionally, as part of as part of the outflow, the purpose, the intent of what the writer wants to do. So on that, I will I'll say goodbye, and hopefully I'll be back next week. Thanks,
Hopefully.
guys.
Yeah, Kip.
All right. Thank you very much,
Hi,
Kip.
Kip. Thank you for
and
coming.
Isaac, I saw you made a mention that you have to run as well.
You're
Oh,
muted. Oh,
I went and came back.
Okay. So we got you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
we just did the $12.
And
Yeah.
Christy, what was your comment on? Did you finish commenting on that last?
Yeah, I'll just say there are a number of reasons why people have thought that the prologue and the epilogue are later additions to the text. There are additions to the text. We're going to come across them, but there's like this random little wisdom poem in the middle of the text that's there for like no real purpose. And then there's the Elihu speeches, which are widely, I think, by a broad consensus considered to be inauthentic as well. But the prologue and epilogue are more hotly debated, especially right now. And there used to be a general consensus that they were inauthentic and that they actually may have just been part of like a little folk story about Job that were just appended onto the text.
Okay.
That view was based on the fact that they are linguistically very, very different from the poetry of Job. So the prologue and epilogue are all written in prose. The dialogue portions, where it's Job and his friends speaking, and then later God's speech from the storm, it's also all in poetry. They're all in this very idiosyncratic, archaized poetry that's very divergent stylistically. And so the explanation that had been brought up to explain this was that they were from two different hands. That explanation has now basically started falling by the wayside, especially after Shun Leong Sao's work on the subject, because he points out that the archaizing in the poetry is not always consistent, which means that it's not probably an archaic text, actually. So the grounds for like stylistic divergence on that basis is sketchy. A lot of the foreign sounding words and other like idiosyncratic elements are also not consistent and not emblematic of a real dialect. They're more like literary affectations that are done by an author consciously, but because they have to be consciously done, when the author's not thinking about it, they slip up. And so that's why there's inconsistencies in the archaizing and the foreign terminology and stuff that's being used, is that it's not being written by someone genuinely speaking some archaic dialect. And that's also why there are points at which the grammar and the broader syntax just like don't make a lot of sense in the dialogue at points.
so it would be like if I tried to write my own Shakespeare play.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. It's like when people try deliberately speaking in like old archaic English in some, or like they try to speak in like some foreign dialect of English to make it sound like it's not being written by some, sub-illiterate American.
Right, Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies.
I often do that on social media when I don't want the bots to block my post. I will type out PHUQUETH. Fuck it, the.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's those kinds of things. So, and so the those arguments have kind of collapsed with those realizations. And we can see even more evidence of this, which is the spelling, the orthography of the text, and the words specifically, which is like the inconsistent usage of because biblical Hebrew does not actually have vowels initially. All of the vowel pointers were added much later, hundreds and hundreds of years later, to these texts. They would indicate some vowels using other consonants as like placeholders, and these are called matres lectionis. So like the vav is occasionally a matres lectionis, or mater lectionis, and or he is sometimes, and
And it should be
it
noted
means
that
mother,
in a lot of
mothers of the letters.
yeah,
and it should be noted that in quite a few cases, there's like good reasons to think that the vowel pointings that have been traditionally given to these are incorrect.
yes, there's several cases of that, and
Yep.
Naphtali Tursinai was like one of the first scholars to do a whole lot of research on that, and then later David Noel Friedman and then also Shun Long So here have all done a lot of work on that as well. But a lot of the vowel pointing is potentially incorrect. Some of the matres like Shaunus are also potentially incorrect and from later interpretation as well. But then others seem to be genuine and also not archaic, which means that these are all pointing to a text being written by someone who is probably a native speaker of late biblical Hebrew, some dialect of late biblical Hebrew, just like the prologue and epilogue, but then is deliberately being obscure in the dialogue, which also happens to be all the portions where people are speaking. He's being deliberately obscure because he's affecting an accent for the characters.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the Masoretic text itself preserves it, but the Jewish tradition of scribes preserves like alternative spellings, alternative vowel pointing for lots and lots of words throughout the Bible. And it's not to say that, and some people make this mistake, Hebrew always had vowels. It just didn't have a way of writing them. And and a lot of Semitic languages you can read without vowels because the vowels are less important in a sense of like
it's like when
in
people
English.
abbreviate never mind, right? NEVR, whatever they do.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah.
So it's imagine reading like that. In English you need vowels to disambiguate like words with completely different meanings. In Semitic languages the consonants are much more powerful in that sense, and vowels are more for and what's the word, like conjunctuation and stuff like that. So you'd have these three consonants always have this sort of meaning, but the vowels only kind of change, like whether it's future past tense, it's masculine or feminine, plural or singular, stuff like that. So
you can fill in that stuff on the ground.
need vowels to read the language and understand what's being said.
Sorry, my father got this book. William Shakespeare's Star Wars, Verily, A New Hope.
that is a modern version of exactly what we're kind of talking about.
Yes,
going on in this text, and those are great, by the way. I highly recommend those. I enjoy the fuck out of those books. But no, all this is because essentially Semitic languages are based around consonantal roots. And so because they're all based around consonantal roots, the primary thing that you need just to understand are just consonants written out. Now, everyone has vowels. Every language has vowels when you pronounce things, because vowels are essentially the things that you hold to create basically all of your open sounds between hard consonants. So for, I can't hold P into a T. I can't do that. Now you can do like a short burst, pta, but a vowel is always having to follow at some point between these consonants because you can't just have a mass cluster of consonants with absolutely nothing breaking it up. You can't have 35 consonants in a row and nothing in between there.
Tell that to the Polish and the Russians, but you're right.
We do not argue with the Russians.
Yeah, some languages don't have any clusters.
Что?
Some languages have no clusters at all, so they can't even pronounce English words like classic, right? CL, such an easy one for us to say, but for some people, they don't grow up with it. They can't pronounce it.
Right. because like Hebrew is allergic to consonant clusters essentially, like that for the most
Yeah,
part.
it's less than English, but like if you go to like Mandarin or Japanese, for example, like there are literally no. Trying to think if there are any actual clusters. Don't think so. Oh,
Yeah,
that's it.
I
Probably
can't
just
think. What's a suron?
yeah, they can
Yeah,
say but they can't
I
really
can't
do
think of
anything.
any in Japanese off the top of my head, but that, again, just and part of this is because also languages, the way that they naturally develop, languages do obey like actual empirical laws that we can actually observe and how they actually evolve and change over time. And one of the things that all languages actually require to function is phonetic variety. They need sound. They need an actual wide sound index of available sounds in order to create enough sounds to have a functioning lexicon. And so all languages have a fairly sizable soundscape. English is pretty notable in that we also, not only do we have like a huge number of consonants, we also have a huge number of vowel sounds as well, which is a really strange. Other languages do not. Like some languages have as few as 5 vowel sounds, but I don't know any language off the top of my head that would not have any vowels at all. I don't think that's
Not
physically
physically possible.
Yeah,
That-
if there is one, I'd be most interested in knowing what it is.
So I just want to bring it back to Job 1 here.
Yeah.
Oh, is that
So
what we're talking about?
yes, I believe
Yeah,
Tomer might have some stuff that he wants to talk about.
Yes, please, Tomer.
yeah.
Oh, hey,
Welcome to
you're
the
here.
show, Tomer.
Please give me
Yeah.
the shut up.
So yeah, I usually I start with the bibliography that I'm going to be using throughout this book. So for traditionals, we have some returnees again. Some of them from Esther, but still, we have Rashi, we have Rashbam, Joseph Kara, Ibn Ezra, Rabbeinu Tam, Nachmanides, Gersonides, Moses Kimchi, Joseph Ibn Kaspi, Isaiah Ditrani, Saadia Gaon, and Obadiah Sforno. Now, for the general commentaries, I have Klein's commentary from Word Biblical Commentary, Hebel, Amos Chacham, which was originally published in Hebrew in 1970. This is a translated version from 2000 something, I guess. Hartley, from the Erzman Publishing Company, International Historic, no, not International, HICOT. Hartley, Seo, and Tul Sinai, because Simone recommended me Tul Sinai. So yeah, I also have the early translations, including Septuagint, Vulgate, and Targum, but not Peshitta, because I couldn't find access to the Peshitta commentary, which is a scholarly one at least. There is one in Bible Hub, but I don't really like it. So yeah, these are the commentaries, and I'll try to limit the commentaries to 5 pages, because I know people have a lot of things to say about Job, and I wouldn't want to.
And we do
time.
get to spread the scholarship burden for this chapter, so you can.
Yeah, I'll really try, because I had a burnout recently, so I'll try
Yeah, I
to.
was gonna say like Tomer, just take like see the silver lining in like us taking a long time on the first chapter. It gives you more
Yeah.
time to prepare for the next chapters.
Yeah, I see. I see some comments though. If Aaron wants to read them first.
Constellation Pegasus offers $4.99 and says, I saw your motorcycle video. I ride a KLR 650. I feel the connection. Had me going. Thank you very much for that. For those who don't know, I had to make it had been recommended by some people who know me that I should make a eulogy video for a motorcycle that I no longer have.
I
Because
spent about 5 minutes watching that, and I was like, wow, he's actually talking about motorcycles. And then I just clicked off. Sorry.
Yeah, both of my kids said that I should make this video because the bike earned it. And the topic of the video was how irrational it is to imagine that a motorcycle earned respect or a eulogy, but
That thing looked cool,
Just
man. I
let
get it.
people love their things.
okay. And it was fun, like inspiring all the bikers in my audience, and so all of the comments about what different people ride and so on, and that was fun. Anyway, MBF 78 offers 25. I think what is that, Romanian lei?
Romanian lei. Yeah, Romanian
Okay.
lei.
In Romanian, we have at least one fully comprehensible sentence in which the words are formed entirely of vowels.
Wow.
I believe it.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not very surprised by that, just because it's a Romance language, and Romance languages in general have a lot of emphasis on vowel usage, which is where actually a lot of English's messed up vowel usage comes from, because we're a Germanic language, but then because of the Norman invasion, we were extremely influenced by French, which messed up our orthography and also our pronunciations of everything accordingly.
Yep. English, like I said, it's just, 3 languages in a trench coat running around beating up and robbing other languages.
So much more than 7. I promise you that. There's a lot of different influences across the world that I've had to teach children about. It's a nightmare. I would argue, I was talking to someone in the chat actually, and I would argue it very well could be one of the most difficult languages unless you're a native Romance or Germanic speaker, because a lot of it makes no sense. We keep the grammar from all the other ones and kind of smush them together and then change it as the things, adapt over time.
Yeah, we went through their clothes and looked for loose adjectives.
Yeah. Oh, I like this one. We'll put that one in the movie pot there. Good point.
Okay, back to Tomer.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. So we'll start with verse 1, the land of Uz. The exact location of Uz is unclear. This place is mentioned in Lamentations 4:21, which states that Edom was in Uz, and Jeremiah 25:20, where Uz is located in the southern desert. Uz is also a personal name of the son of Aram in Genesis 10:23, son of Nahor, Genesis 22:21, and the son of Dishan in the land of Seir in Genesis 36:28. So notes that on the basis of the first two, a tradition preserved by Josephus in Antiquities 164 and later Byzantine and Arab traditions associated Uz with Hauran in northern Mesopotamia. Septuagint reads, the land of Ausitis, which is, quote, on the borders of Idumea and Arabia, end quote, in 42:17. Rashi identified Uz as Aram based on the son of Nahor. Others, like Ibn Ezra, Nachmanides, and Kimchi, identified it as Edom, based on the son of Dishan. One manuscript of Targum Job, i.e. manuscript Salamanca, has Armenia as Uz.
And the Dead Sea Scrolls War Scroll identifies it as beyond the Euphrates as well.
Yeah. On Job, in Hebrew it's Iyov, the exact etymology of his name is unclear. Kleins notes that the name is known from several extra-biblical sources as a Semitic name. Egyptian inscriptions mention a Palestinian chieftain named Ayabum, and some Egyptian slaves bear the names Ayabishari and Ayabi'ilu. He writes that the name originally meant, where is the father, Aye'av, appealing to a deity for help. Hartley notes that some have argued that Iyov is related to the Hebrew Oyev, enemy, with the name meaning the enemy of God. We see this play on words in 13:24, where Job accuses God of treating him like his enemy.
And this is also paralleled in Akkadian. We have, according to Edward Greenstein here, we have it attested in Akkadian in the 14th century with the meaning, where is the father, essentially, but also with the connotation of enemy.
Sort of with friends like this, who needs enemies?
Yeah, in Islam, Job is called Ayub, and he's also called one of the prophets. But I can't remember exactly like when chronologically they place him. But I think it's before Moses, before Abraham. But I don't remember. Yeah.
There is,
Well, considering that he lived in a land far away across the great river, yeah, it seems fairly
But it's a good
nonsensical.
example of how like the word prophet in Islam doesn't necessarily mean someone who prophesizes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Like the prophets in Judaism only refer to like the people who like the book, kind of the books of the prophets are named after, really. I mean, you got Elijah and Elisha.
They have to perform some form of prophecy.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas you could still be, an important spiritual figure who didn't actually have the role of doing any prophesying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Abraham, Moses, Joshua, not really ever called. I think they're ever called prophet in any Jewish sources.
I could see the argument for Joshua with the interpretation of dreams, but yeah.
Yeah, the term prophet, like the idea of prophet, is much broader, outside in like the ancient Near East. Like we know that, for instance, like Balaam was a prophet worshipped, either worshipped or at least like considered very important in the Transjordan area. He's in the Dar Allah inscriptions, for instance, and he's a prophet of the god El there.
Which I did do when we were reading that, when we got to Balaam. I did do a presentation on that, yeah. Dear Allah is very cool.
Yes.
Okay, on verse 5, Klein's comments, quote, Job's piety is scrupulous, even excessively so, if not actually... Okay. If not actually neurotically anxious. It would not be absurd to see here an almost obsessional, quote, manie de perfection, end quote, a hypersensitivity to detail. But to some degree, as patriarchal head of a household, even of grown sons and daughters, it is reasonable enough for him to regard himself as responsible to God for their behavior, and to take the initiative in guarding against any sin on their part. It is not supposed that his children may have sinned openly, whether in word or deed. Their festivities are obviously decorous. It is somewhat strange, then, that Job should fear that they may have committed the gravest sin of all, to curse God, a sin punishable by death, compared to 9 and 1 Kings 21:10. The Hebrew, indeed, uses the normal term for bless, barech, but since blessing God is no sin, without question we have here a euphemistic use of the verb, such as we find in 1:11, 2:5 and 9, 1 Kings 21:10 and 13, and Psalms 10:3, where it prevents the connection of the divine name with a term of abuse.
So this is sounding less like devotion and more like OCD. Is a somewhat neurotically over virtuous Jew not something of a character in certain Jewish literature?
The indication here is that as he is the patriarchal head of the household, he therefore bears a religious responsibility for all those under his household. Like with slaves, it wouldn't really be an issue because they are not really even necessarily people. They're more like extensions of the master. But with the sons and daughters being, full people and members of the household beyond being property, they therefore bear responsibility to actually make offerings on their behalf and to make sure that you are caring on their behalf. So I don't see it as like OCD as much as this is like his communal responsibility.
Mm-hmm. But like every time they have a party thinking they might have had a bad thought, it just, not the idea of the sacrifice itself, but the quantity and frequency and severity of his anxiety about it, I guess.
Yeah, reading Job, I wonder if the author was trying on purpose to kind of invent a sort of fictional culture, religiosity for Job. Like, like this is how these people would, they mourn, they have their own traditions of mourning. They have their own traditions of giving what's called again, sacrifices after meals and stuff like that. Like it's similar but different from what we're used to.
I think it's also to an extent perhaps even idealistic. Like these are Job is like a perfection of holding to the covenant on purpose. He's an idealistic holder to that, and a holder to that for his entire household, so that there is no possibility of blame.
Right, but I'm
on
saying
his-
he's
on
part from he's seen. I mean, he's depicted as a foreigner, a non-Israelite, a non.
No, yeah,
And so like he's following the same God, but like in his own different way. Like the
Right.
friends when they come over, like they like throw dust in the air. I don't think that's like that's supposed to be a symbol of mourning, but it's different. It's or he cuts his hair, and I think it's Leviticus says, "Do not cut your hair as a symbol
Right.
of mourning," or something like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, clearly. Like it's very clearly trying to create like their own its own distinct form of culture for him. But at the same time, like I think it's also that covenant is very clearly lying behind the text, so that even as this is meant to be foreign, it's also meant to be idealistic in some capacity.
Yeah, sort of the perfect foreigner. Aaron, you're muted, which I'm assuming is because your hands are busy with your adorable kitty cat.
With a bow tie, I want to add. Oh my goodness.
That is the most loving cat. Oh.
It's
Makes me
nice
miss
to know
my
that there's
cat
at least
so much.
something in the Bible that I agree with. It's bad to cut your hair.
Yeah. Take that, theists. If special creation was real, how come cats don't have bow ties naturally?
Is this true?
God
You've
feared
got-
them. They would be
You've
too
got me there,
powerful.
Isaac.
This is the one,
Okay.
by the way, that I found in traffic.
I
I
poor
looked up,
baby.
I saw in my rearview mirror this tiny little thing that I thought was a squirrel, but too small to be a squirrel, moving as fast as a squirrel between the tires of moving cars. So I turned my Jeep sideways to stop the traffic, block everybody behind me, and I jumped out to grab this tiny kitten.
You did the right thing. Traffic and deadlines be damned. You saved the kitty.
Yeah. All right, continue, please.
Yes. On verse 6, the angels. Sorry. In Hebrew, it's B'nai HaElohim, literally the sons of God, as we see in Vulgate and Peshitta. Klein notes that this title is also apparent in other ancient Near Eastern literature, especially in Ugaritic, with the corresponding Ben Il, son of God, or Dar Ben Il, family of the sons of God. Tu Sinai writes that B'nai does not refer to sons, but rather beings, i.e., godly beings, divine creatures, as seen in Sons of Cattle, B'nai Bakar, and Sons of Adam, B'nai Adam. Likewise, Chacham writes that B'nai indicates membership in a group. Septuagint reads, the angels of God, which Seo takes as an attempt to avoid an apparent acknowledgement of the existence of multiple gods, and Targum, sons of angels.
So the B'nai anarchy.
Like,
Yes,
think of like the
B'nai
B'nai.
Anarchy.
Think of the B'nai Gesserit.
Yeah,
If you're a Dune fan, you might know the B'nai Gesserit, for example.
there's a by the way, there's a really good article published by Irene Wilson Wright on this specifically on that construction, the sons of God, and that construction, B'nai Elohim, probably goes back even way further to a proto-central Semitic ancestor, because it's attested as a construction for the divine council in Ugaritic, Hebrew, Aramaic, Phoenician, and South Arabian, Nabatean, and Palmyran Semitic dialects. So across the entire central Semitic corpus, it is attested.
And it wouldn't mean sons of God, it would be sons of the gods.
Yes, well, and it almost certainly actually goes back to a singular, and specifically then to the god Elu. It was very specifically denoting the children of Elu that were also the underlings of his council. And so this is an inheritance specifically from the older Canaanite pantheon ideas. I say Canaanite very, very, very loosely here. We're talking Proto-Central Semitic, so before any actual Canaanite language existed. But we even find precursors of this. I think I was actually on here for Deuteronomy 32.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, and we find that same precursor actually still being inherited in Israelite tradition in Deuteronomy 32, where we have the sons of El come down as and are given nations to rule over here, and are also then part of a great divine council. It is also worth noting here that in Job 1:6, it also very specifically has the definite article. So arguably it is the sons of the gods, plural.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's interesting, actually, because I've noticed this in many, many, many religious contexts, inside and outside the Bible, that people tend to view heaven as their legal system. And, you know, the Catholics, they have the set up like a big old medieval court. The Protestants have it set up like a, you know, almost the judge and the jury and the benches and everything. It's almost a bit of an insight into the legal process there too, because they see the heavens as having an administrative side, let's say. Yeah. And that is exactly what goes on in like the Divine Council and what we're seeing here too. Like, and that's why like Hasatan functions the way he does. He is part of kind of like a heavenly administration. The gods rule over different nations. The gods, there are also gods that have more, basically more like job functions. So like Hasatan is the accuser. We also have the angels, the Melachim, who are messenger deities. They are of a lower tier, basically just meant to be emissaries between the higher gods and humanity, or between gods as well. And they're directly attested over in Ugarit as well. So do any of them have the winged sandals like Hermes?
No.
Boo.
I don't know if we're ever told.
Yeah, I think that the angels having wings in general, I think, is like, yeah, it's an extension of
For the
like
messenger.
Ezekiel's vision. But like the idea of regular angels having wings on their back, I think it's like a Christian.
It's a very Christian development, yeah.
I wasn't being entirely serious. I was joking, but I am actually very interested in your scholarship. I just also, you know, it's so the angels are messenger gods, little postal.
Yes. And are specifically not who we're dealing with here. We're not actually dealing with angels. We're dealing with actual deities here.
Yeah. I wonder how many gods there are in monotheism.
So
perhaps too many.
Hot take, there's no such thing as monotheism, and no one's a monotheist in practice. So
oh wow.
I am indeed a polyatheist.
Good. I like that. I might start using that.
Okay, so verse 7.
Yes, no, still on verse 6, sorry. On Satan, in Hebrew, Hasatan, the word Satan, or Satan, in the Bible is used to describe an adversary, generally human, as we see in 1 Samuel 29:4, 2 Samuel 19:23, 1 Kings 5:18, which is 4 in the Old Testament, etc. This is why Saadia Gaon, followed by Yefid ben Ali, saw the Satan in Job as a human figure. However, since the Satan is said to come along with them, Betucham, some scholars suggest that he was one of the sons of God, though others think that he is an intruder. Hebel notes that the comments and actions of the adversary in Job are not necessarily evil or with malice. Rather, quote, he expresses the skepticism of any realist who understands the human nature. The fact that God himself raises the subject of Job's incomparable goodness suggests that the Satan may be verbalizing Yahweh's own latent misapprehensions, end quote. Sale writes that the Satan in Job is not portrayed as a rival to Yahweh, but rather as a subordinate to him, whose orders are dutifully carried out. He notes that, ironically, quote, the later elevation of the adversary to the status of God's opposite returns to a dualistic theology that the Persian period biblical writers were trying to counter, end quote.
Yeah, I mean, like God like repeatedly tells him like you can do this, but you can't do that, and
Yeah.
the Satan listens and he doesn't do what he's not allowed to, and only when he comes back and kind of asks permission for it does God like tell him, okay, now do the next thing.
Yep.
On verse 7, Hable comments, quote, at first blush, the opening question, Yahweh asks the Satan seems quite innocuous. Quote, where have you been? End quote. The Satan's reply suggests that Yahweh was asking for the Satan to report on a particular role he was playing on Yahweh's behalf. The verb shoot, roving, immediately suggests a wordplay on Satan, the title which the Satan bears. Pope follows the lead of Sinai, who interprets the roving activity of the Satan as that of a royal spy involved in intelligence operations, similar to those attested by Herodotus as being part of the Persian administration of foreign lands. Clearly, the roving, shoot, eyes of Yahweh, Zechariah 4:10, and these patrolling, hitpa'el of halach, angels, in Zechariah 1:10 and 11, perform the same function as the Satan, namely to range the earth, to report back signs of disorder, and raise doubts about the integrity of leading citizens, as in Zechariah 3:1 and 2. The Satan, it seems, is more than an aimless angel rambling the earth. He has a specific role as Yahweh's suspicious one, his spy.
So yeah, Satan is the left hand of God.
It also seems that he's like God's eyes, like God doesn't actually know what's going on.
Yeah, he is God's eyes and ears on earth, and rooting out the who might be falsely basically carrying like false intentions towards God, or who might be violating covenant, or who don't truly hold the covenant to be important. So his entire thing with Job is Job only cares as long as he has, his riches and his property. He has never been challenged. We have no idea what he's going to be like outside of that context. And God
I heard that paraphrased elsewhere as consequences, consequences, as long as I'm rich.
Oh God, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to it a bit later. There seems to be an implication that this like world is also like God is kind of have more control almost. Like every bad person is destroyed. Every good person is treated well in this world somehow. And like Satan's job is like he's got all the power, he's going out and he's judging everyone fairly and destroying those who deserve to be destroyed. Which I don't know where they got that idea from, but because that doesn't seem to match reality. But yeah, that's kind of we'll get to it in later chapters.
It doesn't match reality at all. I have heard people argue that it's good for people to believe that because then they'll be motivated to be good so as not to be destroyed by God. But then the reality is when someone does horrible shit and doesn't get destroyed by God, they're like, hey, look, apparently I'm righteous. Cool.
To do something out of fear as opposed to doing something for what is right, however.
Maybe it's easier to think that way when everybody has a shit life. So you can always just say, like, even though you thought that person was really nice and righteous, they must have done something bad, which made them deserve the ending that they got.
I know a few people like that.
And, like, I guess back there, like, if you go back a few hundred years, I don't think there was anyone who had a purely, good life, I guess you could say.
I suppose those things are always judged in context. As long as you have it better than your neighbors, you're doing well enough.
That's true.
Oh, it's always based on that, yeah.
Anyway. Okay, on
verse doesn't like the Bible say like happy is the man who is content with his lot or something like that?
That sounds like Proverbs or Ecclesiastes.
Yeah,
it was Psalm. That I think that's Psalms 1:1 actually.
Okay,
could be.
Yeah. Sounds like.
I'm not as current with that, so.
Ashira. No. What's the Psalms 1:1?
Oh my God.
You can maybe look it up now.
It's
We're in Job, not Psalms.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'm sure we still have
Ashray,
more
yeah.
commentary notes.
Ashray,
Ashley,
it's
yes,
a lot.
Ashley.
Okay,
Yes,
no.
definitely.
It's slightly different from what I was thinking, but yeah. Okay.
Okay, on verse 12, Klein's comments, quote, Yahweh delivers into the Satan's hand, quote unquote, all that Job possesses, but not the man himself. It is understood that Yahweh has agreed to stretch forth his hand and smite, quote unquote, what is Job's, and the delegation of the actual task to the Satan is entirely what we should expect given the scene of a monarch and his courtiers. Nothing is to be made of the fact that, quote, Yahweh himself would not smite, he permits the Satan to do it, end quote, according to Pique. This for three reasons. First, delegated permission is delegated authority, and the ultimate delegator has the ultimate responsibility. Second, the story does not distinguish between command and permission. Third, if there is any significant difference between God's part and the Satan's part in the affliction of Job, Job's complaints against God in the speeches, always against God and never against the Satan, would be to that extent wide of the mark, a conclusion the book as a whole does not allow us to entertain.
One thing I want to know also about what's in Job's possessions is that his children are in his possessions. And so the implication of this is, firstly, when it comes to his daughters, is that his daughters are unmarried.
Right.
Because they would, if they were married, they would be the possessions of another man. But it also implies that his sons are also probably unmarried and then therefore still living on his property in some capacity.
Which means
Because
they may
they
have
are-
all been quite young.
Right. That's the other implication as well, is that we might not even be dealing with adult children by the implications of this, of that they're still possessions of him and his household.
Yeah, the Hebrew word that is used to like refer to both like his servants and his children is it's like that word na'ar, which can mean like so many different things, but you could just translate it as young people. You know, na'ara like a young woman, na'ar a young man, na'arim the boys, the lads, the young people.
Right.
So yeah, they're kind of treated the same as his servants.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Though I do like that Targum, there is one manuscript of Targum that has banim instead, like sons, banin instead of daughters. So yeah, it's
Where?
the same in 1:2.
What? So he has 7
Sons
sons
and sons. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, on 15, Sabaeans, in Hebrew, Shva. Sale writes that the Sabaeans were probably nomads from a region near the oasis of Tema, with which the place name Saba is associated in 619. He notes that they are mentioned in an inscription from the time of Tiglath-Pileser III of Assyria in the 8th century BCE. Although some scholars have attributed the Sheba here to be the Sheba in southern Arabia, modern Yemen, or the Kingdom of Ethiopia, from which the Queen of Sheba comes from, Sale writes that it is more likely that the Sabaeans on Job, quote, are probably from a colony established by the traders originally from the South Arabian Kingdom, end quote. Septuagint reads marauders, and Targum, when Lilith, the Queen of Sheba and of Margod, fell upon them suddenly.
Margot? That
Margod,
sounds
yes.
Tolkien-esque.
And yeah, this is one of those instances where the translators into the Greek just didn't understand that that's a proper name. So they translate it as marauders, and if I remember correctly, they translate Chaldeans as charioteers.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
Septuagint,
yes,
I
that's
believe.
true.
Septuagint, yes.
So whoever was actually doing the Greek translation of the Book of Job was relatively unadept at recognizing proper nouns in Hebrew.
Who is that guy who thinks that the whole Bible was written in Greek originally?
Hillman.
Eamon Hillman.
Amon Hillman.
Yeah. That nut job. Yeah, but this is also, these are specifically cases of why that is absolutely impossible. Because you cannot back translate proper nouns from charioteer. How do you get How you get
Same.
Sheba from Marauders?
I
Yeah, the best ones is when the Greek version has like a transliteration of Hebrew.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, funnily enough, though, there are not any of those in Job, actually.
interesting.
But there are.
They would have done better to do that.
Yeah, there are cases where they still have preserved Semitic syntax, which happens basically when you're translating things word for word at a time.
Yeah.
You're going one word at a time and you're translating in the same order that is in the other language. And so you end up with Semitic syntax orders in the Greek, which happens quite frequently throughout the Greek translations. But then you also have cases where they double translate the exact same verse or portions of the same verse in the Greek because they don't know how to translate it in one Greek word, so they just translate it twice.
That's a good one.
Interesting.
So I'm getting the sense that the Greek is sort of a Franken Job.
It is. It's a mess. And actually, the version that we call the Septuagint Greek now is actually a compilation of like 3 different Greek translations from
he's
the
Aquila
old.
and I think either Aquila, Symmachus, or Theodotion, or the 3 of them.
It's the old Greek, Symmachus and Theodotion are the 3, and that comes specifically because of Origen. Basically, Origen, Origen just started mixing and matching a bunch of stuff because Job was such a mess.
So Origen is okay. Frank and Job. He stitched together the first Frank and Job. Okay, great.
Yeah,
well, that's
the thing is with what we now call the Septuagint, right? That will be one of the subjects I cover in my next video about how it's kind of a misnomer, how it's misunderstood as to what it actually is, because the original one would have the initial Greek translation would have, at least in, I'll put it this way, in the letter of Aristeas, it would have just been the Torah, and then it came to include the entirety of the Tanakh.
Yes. And those were added to over long periods of time by various different people, and some of them were probably completed by multiple people over spans of years.
And some of them were probably done in competition with, or I guess as a response to other translations.
Yeah, so that's actually what the case with the translation of Job is that the Symmachus translation seems to be one that came about specifically due to being dissatisfied with the Old Greek.
Okay, on 16, the fire of God. In Hebrew, Esh Elohim. Some scholars, like Chacham, Kisane, and Hartley, take the fire of God to refer to lightning, as attested in 2 Kings 1 verses 10, 12, and 14, Numbers 11, 1, 16, 35, etc., with Klein's calling it, quote, a preternatural strike of lightning, unquote. Hable, however, writes that the fire of God, as distinct from lightning, is not part of a natural thunderstorm, but a phenomenon sent directly from God with a specific divine purpose. He writes that the messenger interprets the fire as a public testimony that God was the agent of destruction.
I get the feeling Satan is just following orders here, quite meticulously. But yeah, especially with archaic ideas of authority, the person who calls the shot is the one who did the thing.
So, I mean, it's still possible. Yeah, I mean, it's still possible that lightning was seen as divine retribution, like in every. Like,
it almost has been, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly. It feels very like, be struck by lightning. Like that's the.
And what we should probably take note of also is that this is going to parallel other things later on, like his speech from the whirlwind, where he mentions how he kind of assert dominance over Leviathan, which is basically straight from Canaanite mythology. This is the primal chaos dragon Lotan in Ugaritic. And so what's basically happened here is that the god Yahweh has taken on the storm characteristics of the god Baal. And so we have, I think here that lightning is actually probably a fair interpretation, given that we're going to see potential references to Yam, the one of Yahweh's rivals, and then we also are going to see Leviathan later and other primeval beasts, like Behemoth, who's probably like some kind of bovine, which is associated with the storm god as well.
I guess the bulls of Isle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's every time they say he's establishing dominance, I just get visions of my brother-in-law's Yorkie Shih Tzu cross humping her stuffed pig to establish dominance.
Okay, on 17, the Chaldeans. Hebrew Kasdim. Sorry.
It's like there is another like Esh Elohim, like the fire of God. It's like I think there's also a way of translating it as just like a big fire, or like just like stuff like that. It's just like it's not necessarily heavenly or divine, but just powerful and strong, and therefore you use the expression Elohim.
Yeah.
Like of the gods or of God.
Yeah. I guess so. Though Sel writes that the expression Esh Elohim is the equivalent of Esh Yehovah, which probably refers to the lightning.
And I think it's also...
though it is interesting to note that Fensham suggests that a meteor is in view.
Well, you know that
they did talk about the flames after all. So
God was throwing stars at them.
Yeah,
it's always been dramatic.
Well, if the stars do get thrown down at some point, just later in the book.
Start calling Job Chicken Little.
Yeah, my issue is that is with the idea that it would just be a big fire, is very specifically that it is a fire from heaven.
Yeah.
It is Min Shamayin.
Yeah.
So it is. So in that case, I think it is probably best interpreted as like some kind of a lightning bolt, and probably like a divine lightning, a retribution of some kind.
Oh my God, that cat loves you so much.
Best friend forever.
Okay, on 17, Chaldeans, in Hebrew Kasdim, Sel comments, quote, the mention of the Chaldeans suggests a general setting around the late 7th and early 6th centuries BCE. Yet the depiction of these Chaldeans as marauders on the fringes of the Arabian desert does not point to the organized imperial forces of Nebuchadnezzar. Guillaume suggested more plausibly that these Chaldeans were part of the retinue that accompanied Nabonidus, 506 through 539 BCE, the last of the Chaldean rulers, during his sojourn in the Arabian oasis city of Tema in the mid-6th century. Indeed, it may have been on account of Chaldean dominance in the region that the Sabaeans, deprived of their long-held control of spice and incense trade routes, were forced to move westward.
Yeah, and for those wondering, the Guillaume text being referenced is the one I referenced earlier here. So the Arabic background of the Book of Job. He also wrote his own translation of Job, which is also very, very interesting.
I always find unique translations interesting.
Job is definitely difficult.
Do you mean Arabian rather than Arabic?
What?
You said Arabic background.
Yeah, he argues that Job is from an Arabic background, and that Arabic can explain most of the idiosyncrasies of the Book of Job, actually.
Really?
So
like a very old version of Arabic, because we're talking like 5th century, right?
Yeah, that was the problem, is that he was basically kind of just pulling from classical Arabic for his argumentation, because we don't actually have ancient. A whole lot of ancient Arabic, at least not in like any kind of lengthy text. The only things we have are like very short inscriptions on stone, and we have hundreds of thousands of those. But also, they're not what we would call Arabic. They're specific
North Arabian, right?
North Arabian dialects, and they're also fairly late as well. Like they're all Hellenistic and later.
Yeah.
The earliest stuff we would call Arabic that is sometimes called Arabic are South Arabian dialects, which are not actually Arabic dialects. They are Central Semitic languages, and they're actually fairly conservative relatives, basically just like direct cousins of Hebrew. So you have like Proto-Central Semitic, and then you have the Canaanite languages, and then you have the South Arabian languages, and they're basically all direct cousins of that.
I thought South Arabian languages were like South Semitic, like as far as you can get from like.
No, the South Semitic languages are like Ethiopic.
Right.
Those are from a completely different branch of the Proto-Semitic family, actually.
Which I still maintain it has the coolest script.
I thought that the Ethiopic and South Arabian were related. Okay.
Ethiopic is the script for Ethiopic is related. The Ethiopic script is related to the South Arabian scripts.
Okay.
But Ethiopic itself is South Arabian language, whereas if you're looking at like Katabonic, which is one of the South Arabian dialects, or Sabaic, which would be most relevant here, these are Central Semitic. They are actually very closely related to Hebrew, and to the extent that there's a lot of comparison that's been going on recently in some scholarship.
Okay, so on 19, Klein's comments, quote, like the other disasters, this fourth one is both natural and preternaturally heightened. A violent wind, the Iroko or Khamsin, sweeping in from the eastern desert, quote, from the other side, me'ever, of the wilderness, end quote, is no rare occurrence. But a wind that strikes all four sides, literally corners, of a house at once, is the kind of wind that blows in the heroic world of folktale. A whirlwind could perhaps be said...
Yes. Sorry, I was just like, yeah, that is true. I was just going to say, like, I could swear it pops up somewhere in like Ugaritic texts. I could swear, and it wasn't related to a house. I think they were talking about a mountain, but I could swear it pops up somewhere in there. It's been a while.
The only wind that would hit the four corners of the house be a tornado, basically. I mean, there are dust devils
not
and
necessarily.
Granted, that's a little bit literal minded, but you know, if it's taking out all sides.
Yeah, it's weird because it kind of says like it came from this direction, but then it kind of implies the sort of like, you know, the winds of the four corners hitting the building.
But also, I guess I'd have to look into the Hebrew here. But the so like the phrase four corners is used to mean like in totality. So it you know, like the whole it hit the whole thing. So I'm not I guess I'm not sure about the relationship to this in other places where four corners is used, because we're talking about if we're talking about an actual house, then that's obviously a different context, right? So
could be that it just took out all, you know, the entire foundational, all the load bearing structures in the house.
Thing fell down.
Bad carpentry.
So it continues. A whirlwind could perhaps be said to strike all corners of a house, but, quote, true whirlwinds or tornadoes are rare and occur chiefly near the coast, end quote, according to R.B. Wise Scott. Admittedly, in the early winter, which is the season suggested by the narrative, compare on verse 14, nothing among the disasters is a special intervention of God, quote unquote, as Hable says of the whirlwind, but their enormity and concentration direct Job's attention unhesitatingly to the activity of God in verse 21. Hesitatingly. On verse 20, Hartley writes, quote, in a moment, the richest sheikh had been turned into a pauper, end quote. Job practices the rituals associated with mourning, including tearing the garment in Genesis 37:34, and shaving the hair, as in Isaiah 15:2, 22:12, and Jeremiah 7:29. Rashbam, Kara, and Kimchi wrote that Job bowed down to thanks to Yahweh and justifying his justice upon him, though Rabbeinu Tam wrote that Job prayed to himself. Likewise, Chacham notes that prostrating always refers to lying upon the ground in submission, and so Job lies prostrate to justify God's actions. Hebel writes that Job falls on the ground in obeisance as he would before a king, as we see in 2 Samuel 1:2, 9:6, and 14:4, and worships. Yes.
Obeisance.
Obeisance. Fuck English. And worships, quote unquote, his God in spite of everything.
Just to be clear, Tomer, I have also been mispronouncing that word this whole time.
Sans or sans? Fucking
Obeisance.
No. I was pronouncing it obeisance this whole time. So
See, over here in Michigan, we have it. We split the difference and we go obeisance.
I'm just Merriam-Webster. You can't say that. You can't say obeisance. Don't gaslight me.
Well, I don't mean to be scrupulous.
And this is what it's evolved to.
Yeah.
I love it.
Hey,
Okay.
Tomer, you get to go after us all the time. It's only fair we get to rib you back.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Of course. Where was I? Yes.
After us because we all want to get our words in.
Yeah. So Hebel writes, quote, Yahweh's faith in Job appears to be vindicated, end quote. And finally, 21, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Masoretic text reads, naked I came from my mother's womb, literally stomach, and naked I shall return there, shama. The reference to there seems to refer to the womb, though traditionals interpreted there to refer to the grave, i.e., the womb of the earth, quote unquote, according to Nachmanides. Many commentators have noted that there is a euphemism for the netherworld in Egyptian literature, as well as the Greek eke and ekese, there, euphemistically referring to the realm of the dead. Seo, following Nachmanides, notes that the analogy between a human mother and Mother Earth is found in Ben Sira, quote, from the day of one's coming forth from the womb of one's mother to the day of one's going to the mother of all the living, end quote, in 41. This view is also evident in Psalms 139:19, quote, it was you who created my conscience, you fashioned me in my mother's womb, end quote. And Jeremiah 20:17, quote, because it did not kill me at birth so that my mother might be my grave, end quote. He notes that this view is supported by the burial practices in ancient Palestine, where the dead are frequently buried in fetal position, and where tombs may have contained symbols of the womb.
Yeah, because it is interesting, you're right, because like obviously he's mourning, right? He tears his robe and shaves his head. But in that, he also worships. He also worships God in his time of strife.
I mean, religious Jews to this day, when there is like bad news, someone passes away or something happens, they will normally say an expression like Baruch Dayan Emet, or like blessed be the judge of truth.
Well, that's why the next line says, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away, or Yahweh hath giveth and then taketh away. Depends on your translation.
Blessed be the name of the Lord.
Bingo.
We got another comment.
Go ahead.
No,
I'm sorry, Lola. Yeah. Reimers Bragerai said, could it not be a Yemenite Jewish text?
What, Job?
No, not by this.
No.
Not by this time. They're like, we do know that Jews migrated into Arabia and did establish a very sizable population, even by the early centuries AD, but not this early. Not by the time when they're composed. And if it was composed, in that kind of milieu, we would very specifically suspect that it would be composed in a South Arabian dialect, which it is not, and there is no way that it was in any capacity.
If they had made it there earlier than that, they also probably would have been cut off, and so if a book was written there, it probably would never have come back.
No, yeah, we would not have it. We don't, to my knowledge, we do not have a single South Arabian full-length text. We have epigraphs of varying sizes, but we do not have a single thing, even a modicum of the size of the Book of Job from South Arabia, and that's because we just don't have any papyrus that's or like leather fragment leather writings or papyrus or anything like that from that area that survived to the present day from that time period, because all those kingdoms went through 1.5 million wars of destruction. They're also on the they were on the peninsula by all of the water, so they were also probably fairly humid environments that they're not conducive to preserving scrolls. Like there's a reason why a huge number of these scrolls that we have, like in the Dead Sea Scrolls and stuff like that, are preserved in arid desert caves, or they're buried in the middle of the desert of Egypt or something like that, because papyrus does not do well when subjected to wet environments where it can mold and deteriorate really, really rapidly.
I got a couple more comments that I
Same.
just noticed in the chat that I want to ask you about. One of them said that somebody said, Mr. Cranen said that the Thomasine Christians emerged in India within the 1st century AD, as early as the Syrian. No, that's not the one I meant to read. Where is it? Damn it! It all moved. But somebody had said that somebody had gone. Maybe this is what I was reading. Never mind. I was somebody was talking about migrations, into India, like Jews. Somebody was talking about Jews going into India.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jews came
Yeah.
into
Chin.
India centuries before Central Era. They
Yeah,
came
they came to China as
early.
early, and I don't
Yes.
know. Yeah,
As early as
incomplete
what?
statement there.
BCE to
Um,
China?
That's-
I don't
it's
think
I mean,
so.
there were like I think
I mean, the
Jewish
Chinese Jews were there
communities
for
in
so long that they assimilated
Kaipang.
to the point where they
Kai,
look Chinese.
there
But they,
there is there Kaifeng, sorry, Kaifeng Jews.
yeah, the Kaifeng Jews.
Maybe that's yeah.
Oh,
Kaifeng
okay.
is a
12th
small
century.
city which was a capital at one point. But yeah, I don't think they established until I'm trying to think. Would have been after the Persian period, and like sorry, after the Mughal period, I think. So quite a bit later, I think.
And there was one more comment I wanted to highlight. It was Carolina Fontaine, 5396, who says, "Hi everyone, thanks for this wonderful thing you guys do. Lilith, I just landed in Canana. Maybe that meant Canada.
Canada.
Canada. First time visiting. We are at Vancouver. Yep.
Vancouver's awesome.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that's great. You're near Dr. Kip then. Yeah, BC is a great place to visit on holiday because you can get anywhere from rainforest, deserts, plains, mountains. There's hot springs, which actually...
And beautiful oceanic views as well, with lots of islands.
Yes. Not
Canada
all
is unreal.
in the same place, but yeah, absolutely.
Yes, it is. I was there 2 weeks ago. It was amazing.
You know what's not real? Wisconsin. I'm a Wisconsin
That is
mythicist.
true. Wisconsin's not real.
Wisconsin
believe
is
that.
real. It's just frozen and it makes salads with Snickers.
No, I think it's just Michigan extended.
Oh, hot take.
I can see that.
Fired.
I can see that.
There's a whole piece of Michigan that should belong to Wisconsin. It's right there.
No,
We're
I think
directly
there's a
connected
whole part
to it.
of there's a whole part of Wisconsin that should belong to Michigan.
Okay, so you
What
think
happened?
that your state should look like a horseshoe? Got it.
Well, I think
Welcome
that we
to
should also
Canada.
get to we should
Enjoy
also
the
get to
legal
annex.
weed.
Oh,
We also
God,
need to annex
time.
Illinois,
Man,
Minnesota,
what the hell?
Ohio, and Indiana. I think
It's a frozen plain with Snickers bars in your salad. Stop arguing over it.
That is true. That is true.
I'm
Come
actually
here.
Those are great salads.
Anyway,
Do we
There
have
could
any
be cheese over there, too.
Christians?
Oh, you asked?
Yes.
So, should I do a shitpost first?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Guess who's talking about Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Guess who's talking about Jesus? It's the ancient Christians again.
And there's
Yes.
quite a lot here that I'm seeing from my physical copy.
Ooh, look at you.
Oh, you do? You have that? Oh,
I do.
cool. Yes, yes.
There's quite a lot. Got
Yes.
stuff from Julian, Chrysostom, Gregory the Great.
Literally people who you've never heard of before, like
Yeah, definitely never
Didymus
heard
the
of these guys.
Blind
Yeah,
and
definitely never.
Hesychius of Jerusalem.
Yeah, never.
Okay.
People like
Augustine
that.
never heard of that guy.
Pause. Peter. I'm convinced that the Big Nick is definitely a troll, and you can feel free to block him because he's trying to insist that the Dominion of Canada was based on the Dominion of God, and it's no. We're part of. It's colonialism. It's Europe. We still have the king, Charles. His mom's still on our money. Like,
I'm gonna
we're
call him out
cool.
right now.
We'll see how much
He's a
longer.
coward.
Get rid of
He's been
it.
doused
He's
in the chat for the
annoying.
last few minutes.
Shoo.
He's not willing to actually talk and be
Lilith.
reasonable.
No, he's just a troll.
Lilith, you're talking about a guy who thinks that churches are evidence for his God. I think that it's kind of punching down a little.
I protest the assertion that he thinks at all.
I just think that it's
yeah,
funny
same.
that I'm the mighty chicken and he's the coward.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit more like background, I guess, for Canada having something to do with theism than the United
Well,
States.
there's a toss-off line in "Oh Canada" about "God keep our land," which was really just because they kept saying "Oh Canada" so many times they had to put in other things to shake it up. And also, it's the dominion of the British monarchy. Like we're still
Right,
we're
and
still
the,
part
the
of
British
the.
crown is supposed to be some sort of
Well,
divine.
yeah,
Based on these and the American one.
They don't
and it's
actually
the whole
exercise any power over us.
Yeah.
They're just like pretty ornamental. It's like we have a good relationship with our mutual parent, whereas you guys had a tantrum, broke all your shit, and ran away from home at 16.
I got to deal with something else going on in the chat. There's some argument as to whether I am a Satanist, and there is confusion as to what a Satanist is. So yes, I am a member of the Satanic Temple, which, because I paid my $25 membership thing, which technically makes me a Satanist. However, if you look up the tenets of both Satanic Temple and the Church of Satan, you will find that Satanists do not actually believe in Satan.
Yeah.
They are largely secularist. The Satanic Temple certainly is. So
I don't want to say it's designed to troll the other side, but because there's so much
It
more
is,
to it.
but they
you
don't
don't
need it.
say that.
It's not designed to troll in like
Try to be
you
polite.
can say like in a legalistic way. It's
Legalistic
Yeah.
terms.
troll. Yeah.
Yes.
They only understand it when you match energy. It's all that can be done.
Well, they're just like,
Um,
oh, you must be one with Satan.
And if you're
That's
still
what they're doing.
confused and you're wondering who does believe in Satan, that's the
Christians.
Christians.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because Anton LaVey, that's the right name, isn't it? Yeah, Anton LaVey said back in, he started this thing in 1966, and he obviously was asked about it. He says, well, how do you define Satanists who believe in Satan? And he says, you don't. They don't exist. He says that Satanists are atheists. Now, there have since been some, cults that come up that pretend to believe in, like the dogma of Angra Mainyu. There are some people who call themselves theistic Satanists. They had a convention once, a national convention, in which they were able to raise 40 attendance.
Wow.
I mean, I do know a theistic Satanist.
Yeah, I met one
So,
once.
Yeah, they're around.
Devil worshippers maybe is.
Yeah,
word.
devil worshiper would be the right term, not Satanist.
Oh, honey, the devil worships me.
Mm. And that's why you're
Okay.
right.
So in general, the fathers emphasize the special position occupied by Job as a model of piety. It is evident that even though they do not assert it openly, Job represents in their views a figure and a foreshadowing of Christian piety. That is, a type of the perfect Christian who will be formed by the preaching of Christ and the gospel. For example, Job is absolutely righteous and turns away from any kind of evil, according to Chrysostom. He is blessed by God, that is, he has the grace of God, according to Ephraim and Chrysostom. He possesses modesty and an interior wealth, like a true Christian, according to Chrysostom and Hesychius. And his family represents a model of harmony, that is, foreshadows the harmony of the Christian life, according to Chrysostom, Didymus, I don't know, and Ishodad.
Yeah, Didymus means twin.
Didymus, I don't know how they pronounce it.
Didymus.
Yeah,
Didymus.
So, Tomer, does that complete
Yes.
your commentary?
No. There are more Christians. So,
Okay.
So the fathers in general viewed this section concerning the intervention of the devil as an allegorical narrative, according to Ishodad and Hesychius, where the trial of Job symbolizes the constant struggle of the righteous against the temptations and passions inspired by the malice of the devil, according to Gregory the Great. Job's wealth is the fruit of his righteousness, but he has to lose such wealth in the trial imposed by God, according to Chrysostom. The power of the devil can extend only to the limits set by God, according to Julian of Eclanum, Hesychius, Didymus, and Chrysostom. The real instruction of the righteous and the Christian, who is foreshadowed by Job, happens through the loss of material goods and the endurance of afflictions, according to Gregory. Also,
So this Christian commentator or whatever, he's saying that Satan is limited by what God gives them permission to do.
Let me just check real quick. What is the power of the devil can extend only to the limits set by God.
Okay.
It doesn't even seem like he takes any initiative outside of what God tells him to do specifically. He's like, this is the info. Should I act on it? Yes, you may do this, but not that. Okay, goes, does this, not that.
Like, it just doesn't seem to match the normal Christian view of the devil.
No, he's just there for the paycheck.
Yeah, he's down for the grind. Probably didn't even have coffee at that point, right?
Gotta get his
I think it's worth noting with the Christian reception that they're also receiving Job filtered through another source, which is a book called The Testament of Job. Which is like a Greek fan fiction that changes a lot of things. It makes Satan more actively vindictive and more like an actual opponent.
Which, by the way, we read the Testament of Job on my show, Friday Apocryphal Podcast.
Yes.
And it is very funny because Job is like, there's so many funny parts. Job, first of all, he's like in distress and he's like sleeping on like shit for a while, like a big heap of shit. And his wife eventually says like, hey, like, come on, get up, let's find like something to do, let's be productive here. And he's like, get behind me, Satan. Like, just very mad that his wife wants him to, do something.
Yep.
And what's other than lay in a pile of feces.
Yeah.
What's also really important is that it essentially Job, the reason for the story in that version is that Job destroys a pagan temple, and that angers Satan. Satan goes after him vindictively, and then throughout it provides a new context for him to then have his faith and piety in God throughout the rest. So when they when the Epistle to James and other Christian texts are talking about the endurance of Job and the piety of Job and stuff like that, they're not talking about the book of Job. They're talking about Job as filtered through that newer tradition of interpretation through the Testament of Job, probably. And that's what's giving rise to this idea of Job as this figure of enduring piety and stuff. Because if you actually read the book of Job, that my boy complains a lot. He is not there to have some. He is not there to just let God go unchallenged. That's the entire point of the book of Job. This is very much being filtered through this apocryphal tradition.
Speaking of which, Mighty Chicken, I saw where you made a comment that atheism is stating that you don't believe in anything, not denying it, whereas anti-theism, that is denying it. Atheism is not stating, atheism is not believing.
I should
Atheism is
clarify.
not believing in a God. It doesn't require you're still an atheist whether you say it or not.
See,
I guess
I
was
do.
not trying to get into the woods with this because I'm focused on the show right now, not on this troll. I was
Yeah.
trying to type quickly. So yes, you are right. I'm being not quite accurate.
Just to be clear, I still think that
his next comment, however. Sorry.
Anyways,
go ahead.
yeah, I still think that the like agnostics and atheists are like philosophically different, and the I would agree that like atheism as like a propositional claim would be like the affirmation that there is no God, and you and I have talked about this plenty of times, but the I think the what's the word that was used?
Anti-theist?
No. I mean, anti-theist would be like that. At least from my
harmful.
experience, that like theism is a
No.
like
negative
toxic
against humanity.
and- yeah.
Yes.
So that would be anti-theism.
That
Right.
religion is not a good thing overall.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can be a theist and an anti-theist at the same time, because it's
Oh,
you
yeah.
can
You could believe in God and think that all religion is inherently harmful.
yes.
Okay.
It would
I've
be
corrected.
quite an uncomfortable position to take, but it is hypothetically certainly
I
possible.
mean, it's one that actually was taken among deists in the 16th,
Okay.
17th, and 18th centuries quite frequently.
That's true.
That's
Yeah.
fair enough. Perhaps, granted, it
And
was
somebody
a lot
else,
harder to be an
I
atheist.
should look up and see if it was somebody on the panel who said this, but somebody said that there's no such thing as a Gnostic atheist, meaning someone who knows God does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
Dispute.
Yep.
Press X to doubt.
See,
But-
I'm letting you all have this one because I'm not any kind of atheist or agnostic, so this is your fight. Have fun.
No, absolutely. That's totally valid. That's totally
I think
valid.
I think a lot of people who self-identify as agnostic aren't necessarily using the right, the right description. Like it seems to me that
Yeah, because they want to say that agnostic is a middle of the road position between theism and atheism, and it isn't.
Yes. I would say that it is, because you're not convinced that there is no God and you're not convinced that there is.
Yeah.
But that, by definition, makes you atheist.
It doesn't. It does under your definition. But it doesn't make any sense, because you could do.
You're either convinced there's a God or you're
this
not.
argument
Right,
has
that would
been
be
going on for almost at least a century
I
now.
know, but
We
it
are
would be
not going to
theism
resolve it
and-
in the next 15 minutes, and I actually have a point to bring up about Job.
It would be theism and non-theism in that case. Okay.
Oh, he's got mobbed.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
non-theism is another word for atheism.
Theism, yes, we know. Greek roots, yada yada. Prefix, suffix, yada yada yada. The Christian perspective on Job, and one of the things that I find most morally reprehensible, it absolutely is an attitude that encourages you to basically psychologically abuse yourself as the character of God. The idea with Job in that context, and that is not entirely pure to the text, this is more, as Chrissy was talking about with these other sources and this other narrative, the idea that Job is still devout, that after God kills all his kids, he still says, but bless God. This is something that Christians are genuinely encouraged to do and idolize people who do it. There is a hymn that was written by a man whose children died at sea. He had gone, across to the New World to make money, and his one of his children died of a horrible illness, and then the rest of them drowned on the way over because the ship went down, and he went back to try and get his wife. I think she might have been alive, she might not, I can't even remember at this point.
The hymn is "It Is Well With My Soul," by the way.
Horatio Spafford, yeah. And when he was, and the story is that when he was standing on the deck and the captain said, "This is as close as we can tell to where your children died," he wrote the words, When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever the cost, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul.
Thank you. Tomer, do we have any more?
Yes, we do have more Christians.
More.
So, yes, the fathers agree in saying that Job preserves, in his affliction and inevitable despair, and undefeatable spirit of gratitude toward God, according to Chrysostom, Ephraim, and Hesychius. From this we learn that affliction must not become for us a cause of temptation, according to Gregory. Nakedness is both gift and benevolence. Job's words concerning this may be understood of evil and sin, and not simply of possessions. Our only true possession is godliness, which cannot be taken away even by death, according to Clement. We should accept what God ordains for us, for he always ordains what is good, according to Basil. And like a good servant, Job counted the will of the Lord his greatest possession, according to Augustine.
Okay.
Because you should bless God when he kills your children.
I like how you combined like multiple Christians into one.
Because that's
yeah.
Because that's what the overview is.
Right.
Fair.
Saying you read it.
Yes. I'm not going to quote every single one of them. Are you crazy?
Yeah, I'm saying like the last couple of chapters, it was like just one dude. Yeah.
Tomer's new commentary, just quoting the entirety of Augustine's letters.
Please no. Please no.
Now that's an idea. That's an idea.
Augustine and
Thank you.
Origen just piss me off. I fucking swear. They are.
I
huffing.
love Origen. Fuck you.
They're both huffing on copium. All right, they're both huffing on copium. Oh
yeah, at least Origen's copium is also really fucking fun. Augustine's just boring.
Sure, yeah, I can agree.
Well, because he's a controlling jackass. But we're gonna need more weed to have that conversation. So much more weed.
I've read enough of Augustine to think he's. I would agree with Lawrence on the copium thing.
I say that, but I have a friend who's an Augustine scholar, and so I'm going to just say I'm sorry, Sid.
All right, so Tomer, are you?
Yes.
All right. So, normally I would wonder whether we're going to move on to the next one because we usually cover like 3 chapters on any given show. However, this one was 1 chapter, only 22 verses, and it took us a full 3 hours.
Well, you ignored the introduction.
We had an introduction, and we also had both Kip and Chrissy on. And as much as I love both of them, they can go on, and I love it when they do.
Hey, this is great. The only problem I have with this scenario is that we're not actually all sitting on comfy couches together drinking beer while we have this discussion.
That would be nicer.
Do that.
I'll just say I'm sorry that the gods did not give me the gift of brevity.
Actually, Aaron, have you ever considered the possibility of having a live session with all of us there at a place?
The most I managed to be in the room with Lilith one time, and
we got to go to the Tyrell Museum together. It was the best ever.
I was there too.
Yes, you were.
Yeah, so the 3 of us could manage to be in one room. Can you imagine bringing Tomer?
Oh, I'd love it.
Yeah,
I've
been where Isaac is a bunch of times, but now
we missed each other.
If I do that, how do I get you and Lilith and Lawrence, who Lawrence used to travel, but not so much anymore.
My sister lives in Yorkshire. I can absolutely come up with a reason to hit that side of the globe.
I hate traveling, but like if it's like I absolutely hate it. It's such a pain in the ass. So I will travel if it's for like like if I ever do a conference circuit, which I really do want to do, then in that case I would travel. I'd suck it up and I'd travel.
Well, now I'm having this issue. Okay, so Lawrence doesn't want to travel. I'm going to try to get somebody from London and somebody from what is it? Well, Israel anyway, and then somebody a couple of people from Seattle area and Vancouver, all these wonderful places. And hey, let's go to Milwaukee.
Let's do it.
I have legal weed, guys.
Good food.
Milwaukee would work for me because I'm just in Michigan, so that's just a shoot across the pond. Quite literally.
Just got a new car, road trip.
I have legal weed and nice agents. Okay.
Also, I love traveling, so.
Oh, okay.
I will literally just for a day take random road trips to different states and just drive and then drive back home just to do it.
I like how Tomer's image right now is in the dark. He's just kind of like he's walking back.
I can basically do this, which is basically zooming in and out of a white document. But
Yeah.
like
I love London. It's one of my favorite cities, and it is my favorite city actually. And I would love to see Israel, but if somebody can come up with any location where all of us could be happy to do that.
Oh, I would be there.
They keep insisting the Illuminati, reptoid, leftist, whatever, are paying people to protest things and stuff. One of us just needs to get in on that, and then we'll be rich, and we can.
I haven't gotten one of my Soros checks yet.
I know.
I even did the No Kings thing. Still no payment from Soros.
I'm a pansexual transgender person, and I have not once gotten any of the gay agenda pamphlets,
What
or the trans agenda pamphlets, or the woke mob pamphlets. None of them.
I'm sorry.
Which means the woke mob is transphobic and homophobic.
Because I have spent a lot of time in theater, and I know that the gays can organize. Okay, there is no reason for this not to be clear and laid out, and just it's unacceptable.
Okay, I'm going to have to close this show up. But Chrissy, thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Chrissy.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Arn,
All right,
I do have one
Make sure to join. Peter, shut the hell up. Make sure to join the Discord.
Tomer's Discord server.
Make sure to subscribe to the Behold Network.
Behold!
Behold indeed, motherfuckers.
We got a comment from the atheist carpenter who says, you guys should compromise by coming to New Zealand.
Oh, hey. Simone will be there too.
that's right.
They have the hobbits!
Some Kiwis, didn't they?
If that's the case, I'm going to object. You need to come to the original Zealand, because then I can come visit too, because that's in the Netherlands.
But I want to go to Hobbiton.
Yeah, we can stream live from Bagland.
Arn, I did get a question this week, and we don't have a lot of... Arn, I did have a question this week from multiple people, and we don't get a lot of time to spend on live shows. But apparently there was this famous atheist activist who this week came out as a snake handler in a church. And people are really confused as to how that happened.
Do not comment on this any further. Whoever is.
Was he speaking tongues as well?
I
Nope.
handle plenty of snakes and speak in many tongues.
Well, see, none of you are subscribed to Arn's channel,
So you're
apparently,
bisexual.
because you would have known what I was talking about.
Actually, I did.
I know what you're talking
That was
about.
so
That was
cool.
awesome.
That lady looked terrified, and I was just laughing my head off the whole time.
I love the pastor who's like, what is this? The false water
False water
cobra?
cobra?
No, it's a water cobra.
Oh,
And then he
Wow,
told
that's-
the girl that she was holding a venomous snake, and she got freaked out. And he says, I'm just kidding. No, you're not. That was a venomous snake.
It was so good. It's very cool.
Is it okay if I shill something before we go?
Absolutely.
If it requires buttons or zippers, we might have to object.
No, it doesn't. I have a book.
Yay!
The Empty Prison Cell, The Authenticity of Philemon Reconsidered. I am the first person to write an entire book on the authenticity of Philemon, and I argue that it's not authentic, that it was a forgery in Paul's name.
And I did recommend it to my my religious studies professor, who is currently writing a commentary for some, I forget which one, but it's a pretty big commentary series. And I did say, hey, maybe you should take a look at this, just to get his thoughts. So
I would not mind doing a short interview with you if you want to do that separately.
I would love to do that sometime.
Okay, very good. Just let me know an email or whatever when we can do that.
Sure.
All right. Anybody else?
that's the big important stuff.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Tomer, take us out.
Bye, Tomer.
Come on, Tomer.
Waiting. We got things to do, man. Come on.
I you know what? Bye.